Hey, what's up, Reliever Reconers? It's Aaron Pags, Nate Markham.
Yeah.
Baseball is back, baby.
I mean, I'm still waiting to wake up and find out that this is all some kind of stupid dream, and all of a sudden we're back to bullshit negotiations, but we're not. It's the real deal, man. I should be more excited or seem more excited, but it's like the adrenaline dump here just about half an hour ago. But now that we get talking about it again, I'm sure it'll refill real quick.
We're taking credit for the end of the lockout for sure, because we went 16 episodes without discussing the lockout and not getting one person's opinion who came on our show about the lockout until last night.
Exactly.
And when we finally got people to talk about the lockout, it ended. So I've been saving this this Bud Light Next Zero. I know, only the finest for this
Lord.
occasion.
Jeez, watch out.
It's been in my refrigerator for so long.
Since the last game.
0 carbs.
Yeah.
80 calories, 4% by volume.
Wow. I am having Widow Jane.
I know, you son of a bitch.
10-year bourbon. Wonderful. Very, very good, I will say. This is, I'm trying to think if there's any correlation whatsoever. This is barrel number 1812, bottle number 136, and then it was of 2018 is when they, I don't know what they did in 2018, honestly.
Is it bourbon or whiskey?
Bourbon.
Okay, so it's from Kentucky.
Well, it's straight bourbon whiskey, so it's bourbon. But by having the bourbon, then it's Kentucky.
It's not a blend, though. Is it a blend?
It's not a, no.
It's not a blend.
No, but it's actually so it has connections to closer to you. Is that it's actually made with pure limestone mineral water from the Widow Jane mine in Rosendale, New York.
That's not. I mean, well, yeah, old me, not.
You're wearing a New York Mets hat.
Well, yeah, I'm here. The Mets are back. You know, Max Scherzer's on the Mets. Did you know that?
Yeah, yes, he drives a Porsche.
Fucking A, right? He is.
He did not want. I guess he
turned it down. They turned it down.
They all did.
Let's. I mean, we can talk about it now because we can't unjinx it.
You're right.
Right. Kind of interesting. The old guard kind of doing like one last. We got our money, but F you owners kind of move. That's how it felt to me, at least. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it did. And I mean, I don't know if I'm equally as shocked or just relatively shocked, because it's hard to get unanimous for anything. I mean, what, 30-0 as far as even from the owners. Granted, it makes sense because they're the ones that made the proposal. If you make the proposal and you don't get 30-0, but
right
at the end of the day, still, you would think that. And I was watching MLB Network, and that's what they said. They were anticipating that went out. They, in a sign of solidarity, they said, you know what, we'll revote again to make sure it's 30-0. And I don't know how accurate that is, but it's,
I mean, doesn't whatever, right? Like it was their offer. So exactly. And it was always going to come down to we knew this was always come down to the players accepting an owner's offer. The owners were never going to accept the player offer. That was never going to happen
until the TV money started getting the crackdown, which was what 140
games.
Even
so you knew that once we got to this point, the last offer that was coming
mm-hmm.
from the owners. It wasn't coming from the players. There was no the owners weren't going to give into any player, or even be viewed as their employees determined their own working conditions. Even though that's what this is, collective bargaining is.
Mm-hmm.
Working together. But the owners were never going to say, "Oh yeah, you know what? You guys got it right."
Exactly.
that just wasn't happening. And I think that's kind of how the executive council kind of viewed it. They were just like, most of them were in the last set of, in some form in the last set of negotiations and got railed.
Yep.
Just didn't do well, and heard about it for 5 years from all their other constituents. And when push came to shove, they were just going to drag it out to the last second. Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. That's all I have to say. Good for them. Because
exactly.
You can sympathize with employees doing that, to their boss.
Yeah, I just, not to ever have any negative sour grapes to be thrown in the situation whatsoever, but I really hope in 5 years from now we don't have to go through this same thing again, because 5 years in, when you're 20-year-old, time is forever. It's a minute.
Celebration.
Listen to that sound. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. That's pretty good.
Surprisingly decent.
It tastes like a Bud Light.
Is it supposed to be a seltzer with flavored?
It says light beer. It's supposed to be a beer.
Like an energy beer or something?
To be perfectly honest,
you don't know.
I don't know.
It's I don't know what the marketing than they've ever done.
Yeah, it's not great marketing, right? Like you look at this thing and you think it's. But hey, listen, if y'all want to sponsor our podcast, we will drink Bud Light next every single episode.
Please,
we're probably already kicked off YouTube
for talking about Budweiser.
Talking about
trying to pimp Anheuser-Busch or InBev. Yeah. I'll go down there.
Oh wait, you go down there and talk to them. You got the connection.
That'll work. Yeah, exactly. Total connections.
My Twitter poll just ended.
It did.
Kenley Jansen signs with blank.
My vote was for the Dodgers, by the way.
Of course it was. Same. Can you vote on your own? No, I don't think you vote on your own anymore. I think they took that away. But I would have voted for the Dodgers had I been able to vote. Texas, actually not listed, came in second. So Dodgers got 43% of the vote, 34. So more people think not Dodgers than Dodgers.
And it's not even taking the field. It's the field of 28 basically, versus really the non-Dodgers.
Let's count Texas and San Diego in there because not listed got 34% and Dodgers got 43%. But if you add in the Texas and San Diego votes, they outweigh the LA votes. So the field outweighs LA. I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean,
the field.
You'd always bet the field.
Yeah. And some people just like to vote other just because they like the chaos of it.
Well, it's interesting because the other votes, I asked that, if you're voting other, who the hell are you got? And the majority of the people who responded to that said Miami.
Exactly. And I mean, were we, swayed a little bit because we had heard, rumors that someone associated with, a little more finger on the pulse to Miami said that wasn't going to be a thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if any of us really know. I mean, I can understand the need if Miami feels like they are contenders, and they are, and they want to bring him in. It just seems, I don't know. I guess I didn't see enough smoke. Granted, we haven't seen smoke.
There's been there's been no smoke for 99 days, right?
Exactly. I forget.
If y'all are joining us on the YouTube channel, thank you. Welcome. Our first ever live stream up on the YouTube. This is exciting for Nate and I, and Greg will be joining us in a little bit, and we might have a few other guests, but please interact with us. We want to hear from you. Baseball's back, not just for us, for you too. So use the comments over there. We can see them, and we'd be happy to answer your questions about your fantasy teams, about your real teams, how you're feeling, what you're drinking tonight, all of those things. Nate's actually watching the show.
I like to watch myself in delay. It's one way I can see the actual comments, so you don't have to regurgitate them to me. But
okay,
I'll log out so it doesn't.
Anyway, let's go back. Yeah, let's go back because we expect some sort of, at least some hot rumors, hot takes, some leaks, players being spotted in various what was once empty towns in Arizona and Florida, which are now probably flourishing. I can feel that Port St. Lucie kind of vibe. I've been down there before, where the restaurants just kind of are packed that first weekend of spring training. It's an awesome place to be. Not a great, not the greatest place in the world, but when there's Mets baseball there, kind of take over the city. But back to the point about the Marlins. So we run this poll. Kenley Jansen's going to sign with blank, and the field outdid the Dodgers, understandably so. Well, we were talking about Kenley going to Miami, and Nate, you mentioned that, we've kind of been in our own little bubble hearing from our own secondary source, about maybe the Marlins shopping in a semi-discounted relief pitcher pool. And we've been off Dylan Floro. We've been off Anthony Bender, and just kind of staying away from the guys who are currently on the Marlins roster. Kenley certainly makes sense from a team need situation, Does it make sense? Man, let's see this, right? Kim Ing, is she going to make a little splash here? I think that's kind of where Kenley might fit in, because he's not going to be a long-term commitment. So
Right.
if her and the Marlins want to make some kind of a splash, I don't know that Kenley has any connections. I know he's got some connections to Don Mattingly, of course.
Right. But go back real quick, because you said it's not going to be a long-term commitment, but that was what was holding back him re-signing with the Dodgers supposedly pre-lockout, is that he was pushing for that extra year and the Dodgers were reluctant to give him that. So does that mean he's going to be less reluctant and take the shorter contract with Miami, or do you consider a 4-year deal short-term investment?
Yeah, I still don't think anyone's going to give him 4 years, but I think that that first 3-year deal is going to get the pen on the paper for sure. I think Los Angeles probably 2-year, the best average annual value, if that's what Kenley's looking for. Kind of get some cash quick. Yeah. You can go right back to LA, and I think other suitors, if they want to take him away from the West Coast or away from the Dodgers, are going to have to go get creative with the 3rd year for sure, right? I think because you have to get him away from there, and I think he's been there his whole career. He's comfortable there. He knows what his role will be on that team with Dave Roberts, and so it all aligns. It's why. And we can get into this now. It's just why would not have taken Blake Trinan at any we'll say ADP level, any ADP opportunity. I'm just skipping Trinan always because that fear of Kenley is, I think it's it's more than real. It's likely. It always has been likely. It always has been likely.
It always has been likely. At ADP, and we have them, in one. You and I do have them in the Triple Players Ball, but then again, that's a team just full of. That's the Mike Podhorzer comparison team, in that we have DeGrom and Scherzer, and why not take the upside or potential of Blake Trinan and Taylor Rogers with Jake McGee? I mean, in a perfect world for you and partially me, and I say both of us because we want to win, there's 75 saves between the three of them. And another situation, there's 15 because Taylor Rogers has 15, then it's traded. Jake McGee never gets it because Camilo Duvall holds it, and Blake Trinan's a setup man because Kelly Jansen comes back.
It's somewhere in the middle then, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's 60.
60
50,
still
50. It's 50.
But here's the good news. We have Carlos Estevez just waiting in the wings, ready to strike, and Ryan Tepera. So, there we go. See, that's how you hedge your bets with Blake Trinan, is you take Carlos Estevez. This is not endorsed by Reliever Recon. This is simply satire.
Man, the Carlos Estevez thing. I heard Greg on the Turn 2 podcast. Great job by him with Doug Dennis co-guesting on the Turn 2 podcast. I listened to that, I think, this morning on my way driving around, bringing the kids to daycare or something. And so Greg thinks that Robert Stevenson's the guy to have. I know you like Stevenson quite a bit yourself. Why not just take Robert Stevenson?
That's a great question. I think that a lot comes down to, remember last year when we were talking with Ariel, and he was telling us about how in his research that the majority of the closers that lose their job don't lose their job until 2 to 3 months into the season. And so seems like the incumbents always get first crack to blow it. Right. That's just kind of what I see with Estevez. Not that I believe that he's better than Stevenson. I don't believe that. You know that I like Stevenson. I've said it. Granted, you and only 213 other people knew at one point that, I love Stevenson.
Well, now the world knows. We're live
now.
Well,
now the world knows. But now I just seem like I'm piggybacking because so many others have expressed their Stevenson love. But I will pull the receipts. It's no big deal. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, so why not Stevenson? It's a great question. I think. I have taken Stevenson
right
in a number of DCs. The question then is, why not take him in a fab league.
Yeah, sure. 30th round.
So
you're going to get him.
You're going to get him. You know that as soon as he steps in, because the only reason he takes his job is, well, not the only reason. There's multiple reasons. Obviously, a lot can fall on Carlos Esteves' 6'6" shoulders. The other is because Stevenson actually has, improved that the pitch mix to fit into Coors. That he seems to have good grasp on home and away splits and changes his pitch mix up and utilizes that. So I can't condone in every draft taking them. Depends on what you're going at. Like if you have the anchor, like we've talked about the anchor and the specs, that's not a bad one to have. Just sitting back in the 30th just in case. But if you have Blake Trinan, Corey Kniebles, all the ones that we're all hesitant because you don't know about roster construction for their specific team, then maybe give me the person who's going to start with the role and pick up maybe 10 or 12 before he gets traded, loses a job, etc.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask Alex Fast, that's the wrong way to draft saves.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you're looking at, and we do this with Scott Barlow, for instance. Scott Barlow finished out the year. I think he had 9 saves in the last. I think he had 9 saves in the last month and a half, 6 weeks, something like that. Mm-hmm. There's a stretch there where he was the closer in Kansas City. But you and I both know that Matheny doesn't have a closer. And so maybe the situation in Colorado where Daniel Bard was the closer, he did pretty well there. Great comeback story. Mm-hmm. And then injuries and subsequently not great performance led to the end of the season where Esteves was helping fantasy teams down the stretch collect some saves. That information typically we punt, right? We don't include that in our opinions of players, which I think is where we differ from Ariel in that stance. As in, just because Giovanni Gallegos got 11 saves in September doesn't mean he's a closer day one in St. Louis. And I think that way, even as the roster is currently constructed. I know you think that way because of potential next guy coming in, but they have other options.
Yeah, they do. That's the one thing that's going to make these next couple of days probably the most exciting, because I feel like we're going to get either concrete answers or even more. So here's the question for you. You're drafting 4 days from now. Let's say that in your draft in 4 days from now, the Cardinals do not sign another arm yet, but the aforementioned Ian Kennedy, Ryan Tepera do sign elsewhere. Does that, how high up do you jump Gallegos? Do you move him up?
No, I think he's where he is. I don't think he's where he is because because of the guys who are pending.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he's there because of a potential Kimbrel trade or Kenley signing or even Ian Kennedy coming to town. I don't think he's being drafted there. I don't think his cost is his acquisition cost is one. I don't think it's depressed. For me, it's too high.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Like right now, it's too high. So if so he could move down my board right now. I mean, he is down my board right now. I'll have to pull this up while we're talking, but I know that he slid down pretty decently in our rankings.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Got them right here. He was one of the biggest fallers for all of us. And for me specifically, I have him as the 11th guy.
Yeah. And if you look since, honestly, we'll say 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at post Jeff Zimmerman comment about the GM, Jeremy Gibbs' Sabre convention that he went to, and hearing Derek Gould talk about it, where Gallegos before was going, I was, kind of right there above Araldis, close to, Kinley was up and down. Now he's actually behind Will Smith at,
which
ADP
is where I think we all have him. I'm looking.
Yeah.
Now,
But here's the thing to that. Of all of these guys, he has, and some of these leagues must have been really depressed or suppressed because he has a max of 265.
Must be like a best ball or something.
Has to be a best ball. Yeah, I guess I should do that.
That can't be
instead of all. Yeah,
that can't be a roto league.
I'll do a DC.
Points. But either way, the point being that yes, he has moved down just in the, but nothing has. I mean, until today, nothing has changed. There wasn't even baseball for 100 days.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no reasons to move for ADP to move except for what the 10 of us who were talking relief pitching during the lockout.
Right, exactly.
So like we knew in November that Gallegos was never going to get 11 saves in a month. We knew that, right? And ever again, the Cardinals weren't winning 20 games in a row in a month. So
true.
So we throw the 11 saves in September out the door halfway at least.
Mm-hmm.
And we also knew that they'd be in the market for more relief pitchers because they struggled to find somebody who was as good as Gallegos down the stretch. And so they not going to rely on him to pitch that often. And it's not feasible for a bullpen to work the way the Cardinals. I mean, it's unlikely that a bullpen would work the way the Cardinals bullpen worked.
Yeah,
down the stretch last year, right?
Yep.
I mean, you watched them every day.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, it took me to take a step back to realize that, man, I was seeing his value as far as relief pitching and relief pitcher goes based off his merits, and I didn't realize that taking the outside eyes that don't get a chance to watch him every day, they were taking him off of merit or off of his his actual stats, and I did it took us talking about it to realize, wow, how inflated those numbers were. You realize that coincidentally the last two people's names we've talked about in Gallegos and Esteves last year from August 27th on, so about 6 weeks, they had
saves.
They had 22 saves combined. Yeah. You imagine if you were trailing in a roto league and you happen to have those two, you could have made up 7 points and really 10. I mean, I'm making that number up. I have no idea how many, but I mean, 22 saves over that time.
Standings, points gained. That is their formula right there.
Jeez.
And that is, and people, I mean, we're not gonna talk negatively tonight because this is an awesome day. Baseball's back.
Exactly.
And you and I are here to be joyous and celebrate the return of Major League Baseball. And we actually are going to have spring training games. Guys in uniform. I mean, I cannot wait. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to see Max Scherzer in that freaking Mets, some stupid, beep batting practice hat, ugly shirt that says something really dumb on it, like every spring training. But I can't wait to see these guys. The first photo of Max Scherzer and Jake DeGrom sitting next to each other is just gonna be, I can't wait. I've been waiting forever. I never thought it would actually happen. But yeah. Thank you all for joining us on our YouTube channel. This is my name's Aaron, and that's Nate. If you guys just stumbled upon us, we are. Nate's got the great logo behind him, Reliever Recon. If you haven't heard of us, this is a reliever-centric fantasy baseball Patreon. Created by Greg Jewett of The Athletic, the closer goat himself. Greg's closer charts because you have been searching the internets and everyone's pointed to you. Yeah, and everyone's pointed you in his direction, and you've been like, where the hell are these things? Well, I can tell you where they are. They're at patreon.com/reliever recon. So you should head over there. Sign up. Greg is worth the price of admission. It's not just the closer charts. We've got bullpen. We've got bullpen guru who does his streaming relievers. First reliever out of the pen. I'm on points league duties this year. Nate's on the podcast. Eric is doing Eric Samolsky, 2-time FSWA award winner. He's doing all of our media content, so our videos, which you can check out here on the YouTube page. All videos kind of had to hit a pause there because there was nothing going on for 100 days. But those videos will return in force. So tonight we're going to follow along and just enjoy the fact that we can discuss baseball and not have to worry about international drafts, qualifying offers, picks attached to these things, how much the minimum salary is going to go up in the next 5 years. Like, let's talk about fantasy baseball. Let's talk about real baseball, and we want to hear from you. So please use the comment section on our YouTube page. We'd love to hear from you. If you got any questions about your fantasy team, your real team, anything we're happy to discuss it. Right now we are deep into the Giovanni Gallegos plummet in our minds as a here's the question, right? Comfort level 1 through 0, I guess 0 through 10, with Giovanni Gallegos as your first relief pitcher in a single or standalone fab league, 10 or 12 teams.
Are we doing single point, or do I have to do it 3 decimal point level?
Single whole numbers.
Whole numbers.
Whole numbers only 1 through 10. Let's do like a 5-star rating. What would you rate? How would you
3.
rate him as a
3 out of 5?
Yeah, I think that's kind of.
So I want to go 6 out of 10, just because I know that there's a very good chance, no matter a team that's given him like we've done, like the Cardinals have done, and in terms of opportunities to come in the 9th and clean up messes. His peripherals are too good. The ratios will be supportive. He'll get in. We're seeing this, and bullpen grooves talked about it, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, that the relief pitcher wins. Granted, that was a different time, but it's manifesting itself even more and more as we venture each year subsequently. Teams are looking in that direction. He could stumble across 7 wins. He could stumble. I mean, granted, that's usually first reliever out of the pen more so than the 8th inning fireman role. But I mean, the likelihood that solid ratio support can still be a worthy addition is there. Do I want him as my number 1 if I don't have good speculative stabs to take later? Yes. If I didn't talk about relief pitching every day for 787 days now that you and I have done it, I probably wouldn't feel as comfortable. Very good job.
So you got, I'm like, look at this thing over here that's blinking. Maybe I should click on that. 3 out of 5. Do you think that you are biased? 1. Do you think you gave him an extra star because he's wearing the red? Because we're not talking 15 team leagues anymore. Now we're talking. Yeah. Now we're talking. He better be a top 10 reliever if he's your RP1 in a 10 or 12 team league. Otherwise, you probably should have just waited.
Yeah, and well, in 10 or 12, I'm actually more comfortable than I am in a 15 to some extent.
Interesting. So let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
Let's go there because we've spent. Because the only drafts that were going on were 15-team draft and holds, so we spent a lot of time talking about those. But that's only a small percentage of the people who play fantasy baseball.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing in a 10 or 12-team roto league, you're still, standalone. You don't have to have saves. Let's say this, right? You don't have to. But with punting a category comes needing to do pretty well in all the other categories.
Yeah, you have to win not everyone, but pretty damn close.
But you got to do really you really better nail the rest of your selections in that draft because if you can think that you're going to be the guy who's going to be savvy enough to get all the saves off of your waiver wire and fab, but Reliever Recon exists, and so someone in your league already knows to stash away the next man up 2 weeks ago, and when you go looking for him, he's not going to be there.
Right.
But point being, you say you're much more comfortable in shallower leagues waiting. Do you think that there is less of an advantage grabbing one of the top guys in those formats?
So I think there's 2 trains of thought on that too that I've heard, and I somewhat agree with, is that when you have a shorter pool, sometimes the players at the peak tier 1 position give you such a good advantage, you can kind of just forego the rest. I don't know if that holds true. I think that's probably more prevalent and relevant at catcher, maybe third base this year, where if you get the Devers and or the Machados, and depending, and I know they're not the number 1 and 2, you can go Ramirez, etc. But I think those positions more so, but maybe not as relief pitcher. I'll tell you one example. We did the Razzball Riders League, and we only had a 3-man bench, and in the third round, I took Liam Hendricks, and it was only a 12-man league, and it was mostly met with figures. Yep, here we knew it.
Yeah, you're the reliever guy.
Yeah, we get it. But I was like, in a short bench league, to me, that's when even more so, because you can't roster pit, the 23rd, 24th, 25th rounds, which is how long that one was, with speculative saves. You need to be rock solid, and you need to be able to back up more like starting pitching in my eyes is what you should fill those back end spots with. And that's the thing. Each league is a little bit different too. We got to talk about depth in terms of bench, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so let's get back to that. So you're in a 10 or 12 team league, and Giovanni Gallegos, somehow you have passed on the first tier, or you're at the end of the first tier if you want to put him in that close to being in the first tier of closers. Is it better off? Are you better off just waiting and grabbing that third baseman, that last guy on your middle infield tier that you see who's going to steal 15 bags and hit 15 homers? Because saves can be, because everyone says saves can be found.
Yeah.
But can they really?
Well, we know they can be. I mean, we see it every year, and it's kind of the focus. But then again, who says they can be found? The 3 people that can find them. And the other 7 people go, that's why I'm never doing this again. I'm just going to draft them early. And the savvier the player, as far as his name is savvy, sometimes it's luckier the player, because there's no doubt that I can tell you there's a lot of smart people that last year Mark Melanson wasn't a name that was, came across their lips too often and felt comfortable about saying that. I can tell you Jake McGee wasn't a name that was mentioned a ton or any prior. I mean, we just mentioned him earlier. Reyes Maranta or Jake McGee last year at this time, and 99 out of 100 times I would have said Reyes Maranta, but I would have, maybe not 99. That's probably a stretch, but it was the majority. Yeah. So I will say one thing though. You kind of, call me out on one thing, not intentionally, but it was intentional because it's true. Yes, I do think that I'm better at picking up those guys speculative wise. And that's the trap that you can fall into. You can fall prey to, is you do feel comfortable. You've done it before. You might have played in not easier leagues, different leagues. People might not be as, I'd say, quick to the relief pitching. I think now that it's become more, every podcast, I don't care if the podcast is talking about first baseman rankings, at some point in somebody's show, there's going to be a relief pitcher. I don't know how it's going to get brought up, but someone's going to talk about, Pete Alonso hitting a home run off of so-and-so, Corey Knebel this year. And they're going to be like, speaking of relief,
the Aroldis Chapman thing into existence.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, what do you think? And so there's a lot more attention being made now. Now, maybe not during the season, but maybe that's the selling point. If there's one selling point for a $3 a month subscription, this is not a telethon that we're trying to do for Reliever Recon, I promise you, but is to have that advantage so you don't have to reach a little bit more, or you don't have to spend as much fab. And that's kind of one of the things. I don't know if I answered your question or not, if I'm just dancing around the issue because I don't want to answer it because I don't know the answer.
I'll get you on the record on Giovanni Gallegos before the season starts.
I don't think I'll have a record.
I'm going to have a quote. I'm going to get that receipt. I'm going to hang on to it.
Oh, the receipt's right here. I can share my screen, NFBC, and I can go to, rostership, and you'll see 0 of Gallegos. Nice. We can go to RT Sports and see the other 15 leagues that I've drafted over there, and 0 Gallegos. And that's hard to do, is to be a fan of a player and not roster him just because. Why not? You know what I mean?
By the way, shout out to RT Sports.
Yeah.
What an awesome company. You've got a good relationship with the guys over there, and they dropped a couple shekels into the old bankroll and got us into best ball league and things like that. So even when times were down and there was no baseball, you and I jumped into RT Sports Draft, and draft software is nice. You can draft from your phone. I did that, so really cool. They do have a decent this is a sneak peek at my relief pitcher whatever, however you want to call it, relief pitcher points league scoring system. Theirs is decent. It's middle of the pack. It's they use the exact same points league scoring system as CBS. So so they don't penalize relief pitchers, but starters still probably you're probably looking at a little bit of an advantage having more starters than relievers, but the elite relievers, those elite weeks, no doubt in a CBS or RT Sports league can definitely help you, especially in a best ball format.
Right.
I kind of wish I had dug a little deeper into their scoring system before the draft, because I didn't draft any relievers, and I probably would have at least put one guy with some strikeout upside, like a Knievel or Duvall, or even like a Barlow or something, where if they had like a wild ass week, we'd cash that week in points. So
so that brings me to another topic of conversation. We were talking about this earlier. In a points league scoring format like that, not cut line necessarily, where it's a little more advantageous, a little more 5x5 centric. In a points league where it's definitely weighted towards a starting pitcher, and RT Sports is weighted towards starting pitching because they give a bonus points for quality starts, and that separates that gap quite a bit. Where does it make the most sense to grab any relief pitcher? Is it to say, based off of their ADPs in that particular format? Now, I would probably should have had this pulled up prior to that question, because
I was like, wow, this guy did some Nate did some super research tonight. He's got RT Sports Points League ADPs. I mean, we have gotten down. I mean, let's be real. We've been talking about relief pitchers for 99 days without any bit of news. So we should have gotten to RT Sports ADP at some point. And Nate, I know, I'm stalling for you, but
no, that's okay.
But if you've never played on RT Sports, true story, and I haven't played much on RT Sports, but excellent people, cool games, probably like a game for every. If you like the NFBC formats and how many different types of games you can play, they are nearly on par with them when it comes to auctions, draft and holds, best ball format for points. They've got their salary cap challenge, right? Something like that. They've got lots of different formats. So.
Yeah, and they do. And I'll bring up one last thing too before we get off the air here. I'm gonna have it set up. A little spoiler alert. The folks at RT Sports have given us the okay, to set up certain Reliever Recon subscriber leagues where we're going to be able to give away some good prizes for those leagues. I have a few set up that are pay leagues. They're $20 entries where the winner's not only going to get the prize of the league, beat Aaron Pag's league, beat Greg Jewett league, beat Nate Markham league. Very good. Beat Bullpen Guru and beat Eric Smolsky. But there'll be some subsequent prizes, maybe in the way of Reliever Recon merch or subscription, monthly sneak peeks, things of that nature, which will get hashed out. But circling all the way back around, you mentioned the ADP for best ball in terms of not even ADP. I'm going to go off their rankings because there's a lot of people that have never drafted best ball before, and you're jumping into a league, Aaron. You're a professional fantasy sports player, I will say, because you've been paid at least once to play this game. I don't know if that's the proper terminology or definition, but it is what it is.
That's interesting.
I think that's what I'm going to go with. Okay. So you are now entering this best ball league, and right now you're looking at the pitcher pool of Luis Castillo, Frankie Montas, Charlie Morton, maybe Alek Manoah, and there in the middle of all those is Liam Hendriks and Josh Hader. So would you rather have the weekly involat, I don't want to call it non-volatility or volatile.
The stability.
Yeah, stability is a better way of saying that. Yes, words. The stability of those, or the general upside of the 2-start pitcher week with those particular
Can we get back to this? We do have a little bit of breaking news.
Yes.
According to Matt Gelb of The Athletic, Ranger Suarez does not have his visa yet.
We talked about that, remember?
And due to lockout, he's unlikely to be ready by opening day.
Yeah, that's when I was talking about the work visa and Ranger Suarez. That's what I had read earlier, and it had me worried about, are there other players that are going to be affected? And listen to Jim Bowden earlier. He said that he doesn't think that will happen because MLB and the government, the issuing governments, have such good relationships that it won't be an issue. But keep the breaking news going. I think that's the first one, the first ticker for the YouTube, StreamYard, Reliever Recon.
Type fast enough here.
I know. Yeah, quick typer. It's also hard though, and people watching, you'll see you have to try to reach around your mic and not knock it over and trying to type like that. I know. I really wish I had a good setup where my microphone was like here, elevated, like the good professionals have, not duct tape like some hobo that I am. I'm a podcast hobo.
You're a professional fantasy baseball player, Nate.
I've lost a lot more than I won, I feel like.
Yeah, so that's less than ideal, and I think that Suarez is the first that we've heard of, but there will be more. Mm-hmm. And the good news is, though, I mean, if there's good news in any of these things, is there's going to be 162 games, so there's plenty of time for Ranger Suarez to prove that last year was no fluke, and that he can be an integral part of the Phillies rotation, except when they play the Mets. Of course, let's just touch on this real quick. Let me get this breaking news thing down, because this is something that I've always kind of wondered. You root for your team first, or you root for your fantasy team first?
So, I want to tell you the truth, because I do root for the Cardinals first. It all comes down to my selfish gains. If the Cardinals were in the world, if I had one base hit by player A that defeated
it's the
my
last
Cardinals,
day of the, it's the last day of the year, and correct. you need an RBI, and there's a guy on third.
Home run,
you need whatever. You need a homer, or a 2-run homer.
Keeps the Cardinals out of the playoffs, or my team wins,
or you win the main event.
I'm taking the main event win. That financially is. I'm sorry, but that's the thing. That's the shitty fan in me that I know.
That's not. I don't think that's a shitty fan. I think that is being alive to watch. Or not alive, being conscious of your being, and having a World Series to celebrate. Exactly. Like I think, because I think as a Mets fan, I was alive for the last World Series, but not conscious.
That's true. You know what? Because the Blues 3 years ago, if I had money on on anything, I would have taken the Blues Stanley Cup victory over no matter what. That's fair. That's fair to say.
Yeah, I do. For me at least, I think that comes into play. I do think that the rising popularity of gambling on sports, daily fantasy sports in general, probably have moved people more away from being team centric, and this is why the NFL and NBA have been so successful with this, because you can be a fan of some guy who plays in Baltimore if you live in Missouri, right? Like you can just root for that guy, you can bet on that guy, you can and so now hopefully Major League Baseball, and they announced this the worst possible time, because everyone thought there was going to be a deal, and the deal that they announced was with Apple TV and Peacock to do like a kind of red zone-ish
thing.
I don't know like the full specifics on that, but It'll make it easier for us to watch ninth inning games. I can tell you that.
It will. Now, I think we are far away still from the bullpen TV where they have live break-ins because Adam Warren is up in the 7th inning for whichever team he pitches for.
Take my money. I wish I
exactly.
Give you my credit card right now. Let's get it done.
Would be Reliever Recon TV. It would be more than $3 a month, unfortunately. And we would just have a bunch of our TVs all spread out and our phone just pivoting back and forth to different screens. Sorry, MLB, we would never do that. Don't actually fine us.
Right. We will not be using any likenesses without the permission of Major League Baseball.
Exactly. Express written consent of Major League Baseball. But yeah, that's people ask, and that's probably the one thing when they're like, I don't get a ton of people saying, what's the hardest thing about covering relief pitching? But it's like, it always comes up is that's the most attentive that you should be, is to know next man up and situationally speaking, who is the team going more linear path? Are they doing a, Seattle where you have this batch of players 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or is it you have a specific inning no matter who you're facing? They're taking righty lefty splits out of the equation, just having an eighth be ready to go. And that's where I think that, we'll have probably the most value, because with that, you uncover gems. You uncover when it's going to be, what type of, I guess, bullpen, how they're going to run that bullpen. And that will tell you that if there's an injury or if there's an implosion, who then you should target.
So this already exists, just not in video format. This is called the closer charts. And if you're not familiar with Reliever Recon, Greg Jewett of The Athletic and Reliever Recon founder, as we call him, dad, sure. Creator. Yeah, he has been doing this for years. He's been doing exactly what Nate just described, watching like the ends of so many baseball games. It would make you sick. And writing down by hand every morning at like 4:30 in the morning how the Miami Marlins relievers fared in a 13-4 blowout loss on July 14th, and just giving you little tidbits of information. And as those tidbits of information kind of spiral, they start to intertwine. You start to find the narrative that everyone so desperately looks for in the offseason when there are no narratives because there are no games. Exactly. We don't know what anyone's thinking, but we all are like clutching at straws here to try to find a reason why Kenley Jansen's going to sign with Miami because Don Mattingly's there and they need to make a big splash and like all these things. When the reality is, let's see guys in their roles and watch their roles evolve throughout the season. And instead of chasing Julian Merriweather, we pick on him all the time, but instead of chasing Julian Merriweather because he had those saves, let's trust the process of the closer charts and watch things play out. It's okay to be it's okay to be aggressive early in the season. We support that 100%, but it's we've seen how the process works well, and it works well by not chasing last week's saves,
right?
By knowing who the Twins have had up in high leverage situations, just hasn't worked out that he's pitched the ninth yet, but he's earned the trust. And as soon as Taylor Rogers gets moved, he's been on your team for 3 weeks, right? Like that's the process. And that's if I could sell you on anything for Reliever Recon, I would sell you on those closer charts. So patreon.com/Reliever Recon, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, head over. There are some free articles out there, and if you are looking to check out some stuff without putting down your hard-earned money right away, Nate, myself, Greg, we'd all be happy to share with you those free bits of stuff that we've been throwing out periodically throughout the winter. And as we get closer to spring, We will start to focus more on actual roles and actual pitches that people are throwing, and we can see, how someone's elbow has healed up over the winter, or we can watch Gabe Kapler with Jake McGee and Camilo Duvall specifically, situations like that. So we're going to have some things to give you, and we hope that you join us. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. You can find some of the videos that two-time FSWA award winner Eric Smolsky did for us, and more videos to come. They're here on our YouTube page. We want to hear from you, so please use the comment section, ask us questions about your fantasy teams. We're going to be here for a good portion of the night here, kind of eyeing the news and breaking down the things that have happened since we've got baseball. We're just excited. We want to talk about it, and so we want to talk about it with you, Nate. What was the one thing that you thought at that moment when the deal was signed?
I thought, thank God that the money that I've invested into all these drafts is worth something now. Granted, I know there would be a refund. Refunds, I don't want a refund. If I spend money for something, I want to use it. If you buy, a ticket to go see, do you have a favorite band or someone that you would like to see?
I'd love to see a Smashing Pumpkins, but I have yet. But
so the Smashing Pumpkins are coming to Shea Stadium. Nope, not Shea Stadium. Too far for you. Let's say they're coming to.
It's Citi Field.
Well, no, they're coming to Shea Stadium because we're going back in time.
Oh, we're going back in time.
Smashing Pumpkins were popular and still. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
You. I guess I heard that.
So here's a good little. Here, you know how I can always have a
band name. What I mean, I could have said Aerosmith. I could have gone way further back.
But Aaron, in true you and me fashion, you pick the one band that is perfect because Corgan, right? Billy Corgan.
Yep.
I know his cousin.
Of course you do.
His cousin's name is Justin Corgan. Justin Corgan worked with me here in St. Louis. Justin Corgan is touring right now with the Devin Allman project.
Yep.
And he's a bass player. And so the Corgan family is actually very talented musicians.
And they love Eno's Pizza. And they went to which high school?
Well, no, Billy Corgan's not from St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
He's from Chicago area. No, that's why he's a big, I think, Cubs fan.
Okay.
And so, but Justin does live down here versus Chicago. I'm sure he likes emos. I don't know. I don't know his inner workings. But yes, it was that. So my question then,
what was the question?
The question is if you had Smashing Pumpkins tickets to the Charleston Arena, whatever the fuck it's called.
Oval Stadium.
There you go. Boom. Got it. And you were amped to go. And then all of a sudden they canceled it, but they gave you a refund plus another $50 for your troubles. You could care less about the $50, right?
Yeah.
Same thing as with this.
Yeah.
I just want the draft to happen. Even though the draft's just as much, it's what percentage out of a total 100% pool, piece of the pie, the draft versus the actual season, how much of that 100% pie does the draft take up of your fantasy baseball love?
It used to be, can I say it used to be, I'm not a curmudgeon about the drafts, but can I say it used to be a lot. I used to be really super excited to draft. And then as I've drafted more of late, I find that, man, I don't even want to put this lightly, that drafts are completely overanalyzed. And especially any pick made after the first 100 these picks are so interchangeable and have the only thing they have to do with are the first 8 picks that you selected and nothing to do with anyone else's team. So it's I do find draft grading people everyone likes when you get a nice compliment on your 16th round selection or 18th round selection, and we all remember the ones we hit. But boy, are we so wrong in those rounds, even when we do them so often. So I guess I think I enjoy I enjoy obviously in-person drafts more than I do impersonal, and pretty excited about the Wharf League and getting together with some guys in Atlanta and doing a live draft. But it probably was 75-25, and it's now more 50-50 for me.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel the same way. I used to think. I mean, if you knew how many teams I would just not abandon, but not pay nearly as much attention as I should. Hence why I started to hedge and go into best ball drafts early in this season. So it was best ball only, the DCs, and then we talked about RT Sports. RT Sports has nice little $20 best balls. And you talk about filling my December through late January up with drafts. Remember last year? Hell, I think last year every day it was like, hey, you want to join this draft with me?
Yeah,
pretty much. Because I didn't have children to worry about like you do and responsibilities, so I could do that. But
you hear that? I hope Alyssa's watching in the other room. I have children and responsibilities. I don't just talk about fantasy baseball all day every day.
Exactly. If she's watching, good
she's
job.
Not watching.
There's zero chance that's happening. If she's watching, there's something's wrong. There's no TV. The cable's out, and the only thing the computer's turned, the mouse is broken, the keyboard's off, and she can't figure out how to turn the computer screen off. And it's stuck to YouTube, to the Reliever Recon YouTube channel. So, needless to say, not happening.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, we draft more now because we are in more leagues, and so that draft feeling may have dissipated a little bit with me, unfortunately, because the draft it's fun, it's fun, and but as soon as you're done drafting, you're faced with the prospect of a lot of these players aren't going to be on your team as you progress through the season. Some of them will be on your team far too long.
Yep.
Because only because you drafted them before they ever played a game. And so there are a lot of things I have tried to be cognizant of to make myself a better fantasy baseball player. And one of those is not focusing so hard on the draft, which sounds counterintuitive to being a good fantasy baseball player, but drafting and I think this is where the roots of my I'm not in love with ADP actually really comes from, because the average person in your league, in a 12-team league, finishes in 5th and a half place.
Yeah,
5th and a half place. And so if you really want to finish 5th and a half place, well, then you make sure you pick a guy whose ADP is in round 8, because you are going to be just as likely to drop that guy as I am the guy that I'm going to take in round 8.
Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. You want to?
It's not negative. We got breaking news?
No, we don't. I'm looking through. Say John Mozeliak is had a press conference, and nothing has happened, or it's been delayed, because I see nothing other than that. But I do have a question for you. If you want to be put on the spot, as far as like,
I do.
You mentioned you won't have people on your roster. Do we want to play the game of who's the first closer to lose their job?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know why I ask questions, because I know you're going to make me answers too.
Okay, let's set the parameters. It's got to be only amongst the top 12.
Okay, that's fair.
And so let's use, I don't care what we use. Let's
use our rankings, our 2.0.
Okay, beautiful. Let's use the Reliever Recon
cumulative rankings 2.0.
2.0s. Anybody in the top 12? Let's sort it. All right. So we're going from Hendricks, Hader, Iglesias, Presley, Clase, Diaz, Jansen, Chapman, Smith, Kimbrel, Gallegos, Romano. We can toss Knievel in there if we like that.
Sure.
Well, let's toss Knievel in there, because I've come more around to Knievel of late.
Throw Taylor Rogers in there too.
But I mean, the further you go down, the more they separate from the top guy, right? Like you can't see Taylor Rogers finishing as top 3 guy, can you?
Well, this isn't a question about who's going to finish as a top 3. It's who's the because I don't think he loses his job.
I think you can make the case for any of those guys I just mentioned, except for Taylor Rogers, to finish top 3.
Oh, I think so too. I think that's a fair statement.
But now we're going to say one of them is going to lose their job.
Yeah.
So let's make it hard. Let's not make this easy. We're not going to make this a layup. We're not here to do layups. Who of that group will lose their job first, not due to an injury?
Man,
I'm gonna
bet that we have the same answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Emmanuel Clase.
Are you okay?
And so I don't think we have the same answer, but I think that not that Clase isn't talented, and not that there is an abundance of Cleveland Guardians ready to take his job. And I don't think the one thing about all these bullpens, the best like number 2 guys behind these guys are like Devin Williams. We know Hader's not losing his job. Craig Kimbrell, and we're hoping he's going to get traded. So we know he's not taking Hendricks' job. And then you really kind of just look at the guys behind, and there isn't one guy behind there who's jumping off the page at you. And so I think that's what makes this exercise super hard. The one thing about Cleveland is they kind of circled Karinchak as their guy last year.
Oh, we know. We're very aware. Don't worry.
So 1 year do not maketh a set for life closer, like the great Billy Shakespeare said once.
Yes, of course.
So maybe I'm just on shakier footing with Clase than most, because I remember the conversations about the Cleveland bullpen last year about arbitration. Look at that. And his arbitration year is coming. And Cleveland being so damn cheap that they don't want anybody to get any saves. So I also, he had some trouble throwing strikes earlier in the season. He did better throughout the end of the season. And when I look at 2 things, one, that he's only closed for, one season. He's only been in that role for, just shy of a full season, pretty much the whole season. And 2, that he had some issues with command during that season. That is a recipe to me where they could pivot to somebody else, add in the cheapness of the owner and all that stuff. And now you are not going to say Clase.
No, but it's interesting enough because we talked before we went on, and you bring up arbitration again. And one of the caveats this year is that arbitration is going to be handled in season. And
this is a very interesting point, actually.
And that's something to consider, is that from a team standpoint, a team dynamic, no team wants to take a player to arbitration middle of season, nor does a player really want to have to go to arbitration while competing for said team. No one wants to find out that the team thinks less of you while you're trying to win, blah, 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 and do all those factors. The fact of the matter is they'll agree to something potentially before anything even has to be resolved. And if that's the case, if they already agreed to arbitration, does that mean that they're going to be worried about Clase's numbers as a whole going through the rest of the season? I don't know the inner workings enough to say, does that have, what future developments does that implicate? Where does that stand in that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely another wrinkle in this whole mess. Something that we're gonna have to figure out. They've got lots of little. And there's some. I wish I didn't scroll away from this tweet about all these little bonuses where they're like vastly underpaying guys who receive awards once again.
That brought up another interesting wrinkle too. Not to go off tangent there too, but they were talking about what if the beat writer for the Mets is pissed off at Max Scherzer because he didn't give him an exclusive when he said he was going to do this. And he's like, fuck, I'm not voting for you. And he loses votes enough from his own beat writers. and he misses out on this, or what if, I mean, I'm not saying the team collusion wise would talk to their own beat writers and be like, hey, listen, how about you maybe don't vote for so-and-so, and we'll make it up to you somehow. Again, I'm not trying to ever assume collusion, but I mean, let's be honest. It would not, you're not floored by me stating that, correct?
No,
exactly.
These awards are crocs of shit anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, there's just, there are things that are different. Are different that are in this CBA that, coming for one, National League, DH, two, starting next season, or this season, there's more playoff teams, right? Looks like we're going to go to 12. So, now we have more teams potentially looking to add that veteran back end of the bullpen type guy who's on a bad team. So, hello, Mark Melanson. I'm talking about you. When Arizona's 15 games out in May, and the closer situation in Texas still hasn't panned itself out, Arizona could recoup some organizational depth from Mark Melanson, because Texas is saying we just need to get playoff games in our new ballpark, get the fans energized about this team that we spent a bunch of money on. And so why not bring in a guy who's only going to have a year and a half left on his deal to come in here and do some things? And so, again, Greg doesn't just do the closer charts. He does coffee and closers. Very regularly will Greg kind of put some context to the position. And if there's one thing that we say when we talk about relief pitching, and I've heard you talk to other people about it, and you mention this every time I hear Greg, I hear Bullpen Guru, I hear everybody talk, everyone from Reliever Recon, whenever we mention, the first thing we mention when we talk about relief pitching is this is a position in fantasy baseball that has the most context attached to it of any, bar none. It's not close. The amount of games you pitch in a week matter, or your team plays in a week. The amount of innings you pitched in your or pitches you threw in your last outing on Sunday matter. Your upcoming, there's just just these things you don't think about when you're thinking about your third baseman, right? Are the things you need to think about when you think about your relief pitcher. And they're, again, if you just stumbled upon our YouTube live stream today, you know nothing about us. Just know that we are Reliever Recon, fantasy baseball Patreon site that is dedicated to relief pitching, and we've got some of the best collective minds, and it starts at the top with Greg Jewett of The Athletic and his closer charts. And you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen there, patreon.com/reliever recon. Come on over. Check out the free stuff. If you like it, sign up. Every time we hit another milestone on our patrons, we give away some cool stuff. Gave away a fantasy black book, a Joey P. We've given away some baseball memorabilia, and just plenty of cool stuff. So can't shill enough for our own service, but oh my goodness, it's almost like we summoned him. It's almost like we summoned him, Nate. As we're talking about one of the best things that comes with your paid patronage to Patreon, that would be Greg Jewett at GJewett9. GJEWETT9 on Twitter.
Hey.
Breaking news. Greg Jewett joins the pod.
What's going on, guys?
Nothing. Just putting you on the spot right now.
Yeah, we're putting you. Yeah, we're about.
You have to answer this question
right now, Nate. Get him.
You have top 12 of our cumulative rankings 2.0. Who was the first closer to lose their job, non-injury related?
I'll give you the rundown. Ready of the 12: Hendricks, Hader, Iglesias, Presley, Clase, Diaz, Jansen, Chapman, Smith, Kimbrel, Gallegos, Romano.
Smith.
That's who I was. That's what I was.
This is where Nate was headed.
He almost lost it in August last year. I mean, I know the World Series will give him a leash, but if there's a guy in there, you can just point to the walk rate, the home runs, and he's also on an expiring contract.
Yeah, so Greg, we were just talking about interesting things that we need to now think about this year, especially with it now that we have, because we can talk about actual baseball now. Look, we got a deal. We don't have to speculate on any of the changes that are happening in the season or how many playoff teams, things like that. But you mentioned this on the last time we had you on our show, and I think it's something that bears repeating to those folks who are tuning in tonight. The addition of extra teams in the playoffs, the 12-team playoff that Major League Baseball is going to institute. How is that going to impact your strategy? Let's start here. How do you think that's going to impact Major League Baseball team strategy across the board as the season progresses?
Well, what I think is you'll see maybe 3 or 4 teams that normally would have sold may not, because it'll either be a bad look for their fan base, or they're just going to stay put and see if they can get on a heater. I mean, everyone remembers what Nate's Cardinals did in September last year. It's not to say that another team's going to replicate that. However, you're one run away from doing something. So why would you sell at that point if it's within the realm of chances? I'm hearing a lot of feedback from somewhere.
Oh, that's Nate. He's got his MLB network
up, turned
up all the way.
I'll turn it down.
He's been watching Harold Reynolds all day. He can't get enough Harold Reynolds.
Lord, that'd be like that almost. That's how I picture hell.
Greg,
welcome to hell. You're gonna have to listen to Harold Reynolds talk 12 hours a day. I'd be like, oh my god.
Yeah. So we just before you came on, we were talking about this like exact thing about teams that are gonna go for it, at least go for like the 6th seed, right? I mean, get yourself a home playoff game, and get the fans in the stadium and get your fan base energized. And one of those teams doesn't necessarily have a closer currently. That's the Texas Rangers, and kind of circled them as a team where, like, if they don't go out and make a big splash at that position here in the next few weeks heading into the season, maybe they're the type of team who is kind of like hanging around. They're kind of in it. They spent a lot of money on their offense. They didn't really, they went out and got like a secondary or tertiary guy who's they used a little Barlow. They used a little of this guy. None of those guys is really working out for them. And then they look, maybe like a couple hundred miles west, and they see Mark Melanson still closing games for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they think, bingo, give me the guy at the back end of the bullpen with some experience to try to help us make this push to that 6th seed in that 2 days on national TV in October. I think there's stuff like that's going to happen. I mean, I do.
It's possible, but he's on a 2-year deal. I mean, so it's not, he didn't just go there to be a 1-year rental in theory. It doesn't mean the Diamondbacks can't trade him, but, we know what insulates Melanson is it's hot garbage getting to him. The bridge to him is not very good. I mean, Caleb Smith is okay, but they usually use him in a multi-inning role in the 5th or 6th inning. So unless he transitions into a more traditional 1-inning outing reliever, or Bukauskas is healthy or whatever.
There he is.
There it is.
But here's I just don't know if Arizona. I think part of the reason they probably had to give him a 2-year deal was so he had some semblance of normalcy. He probably didn't want to go back and be a free agent again, or doing whatever.
We got some breaking news. We got some breaking news.
Is this actual news or somebody else coming in?
It's some news. Not necessarily directly player related, but Alex Coffey, previously of The Athletic, now the Philadelphia Inquirer, is breaking down the new CBT and has the Phillies payroll at $180.7 million, which puts them roughly $49 million below the new threshold.
Interesting. That seems like just enough for, unfortunately, them to go out and bring in an outfielder that will ruin my Matt Vierling outfielder number 7 on team construct.
We know that Philadelphia has been disastrous in the bullpen. over the last few seasons, and that they went out and acquired Corey Knebel before this lockout. Now, 100 days later, they've got $50 million wiggle room between them and the top of the line. I mean, they never get to the top anyway, but they've got some decent amount of cash to play around with here. Do we now add them to the Kenley Jansen mix, Greg?
I suppose you could. Now that when you read the stuff from, it's funny. It's like it must be every writer at The Athletic, beat writer, was sitting on something like this. So, like every team, every 15 minutes seems to be having their post-lockout plan publishing. So I haven't had a chance to open the Phillies, but in the header it said adding 2 setup relievers. It didn't say going out to get a closer. I still think they're probably searching for an outfielder, which is where the major allocation of that money's going. So I don't think that they're going to be looking to spend $15 million on a closer, just based on that. Again, I can be completely wrong, and I'm okay with that. I just get the gist that they want, in the opposite of what I wrote about in Coffee and Closers this weekend, they want quantity, not necessarily maybe quality, or they want quality in quantity. They want to get 2 good setup relievers rather than put all of their eggs in one basket on a closer. That would be, they need depth. That would be on my inclination, not just because I like Knebel, but because from a competitive standpoint, it just makes sense to get 2 good relievers to help in case they have to shut down Knebel, because he's going to have at least one stint on the IL. I can't see him making it the whole season.
Right. And Dombrowski, on our conversation last night, Aaron, Nate brought up an interesting point that Dombrowski made every indication that he was comfortable with Knebel being in his guy. I mean, they had an intimate moment, if you will, in terms of an agreement that Dombrowski wants Knebel to be the guy, and Knebel is happy to, take that position. And again, it's coach speak. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, I just don't want this to be a Padres situation where everything tells us it is, and then they pull the rug out. But yes,
right.
It's just something you have to enter with eyes wide open. So we'll see how this all transpires. I saw Aaron put out the thing earlier today about where will Jansen go, and I don't know why, I'm starting to feel like he's going to trend towards Boston.
Okay, let's get back to that in a second. Yancey's joining us. Hi, Yance. Thanks for joining us on our first ever live stream on the YouTube channel. Yancey has another angle for Philadelphia with all this payroll flexibility, and that's a trade.
Well, I mean, everybody's been saying it's going to be one of their infielders for Craig Kimbrell, but I don't know. We'll see.
God, I don't know what I want. I mean, you guys know I want.
I only have one share of Knebel, so whatever. I purposely waited to get into my money drafts until we had.
I was going to say, Greg, this is been your soapbox from the lockout day one, is that when this all went on pause, yeah, sure, this is all the information we have to draft now. Mm-hmm. But when the handshake agreement happens, take everything and just kind of crumple it up and toss it in your trash can, because there are going to be so many moving parts here that you're going to have to be able to adjust.
Yeah, and the ADP article I asked you to edit, I mean, I think you can just make that as a bookmark, and that was the whole reason that I included the because it was Draft Champions ADP, but I included the Labor 15 team and the Tout 15 team redraft ADPs for each of the closers, so you can kind of you have a visual now, like you can see, hey, this is what it is on Draft Champions, but that's a draft and hold. But here it is in a league with FOB, and that's almost like a precursor to probably closer to a range of where they're going to be in home leagues. And I'm really curious to see what happens in the main events. I think that's going to be, to me, that's going to be really, until they start happening, we're not going to know. But once that information starts to aggregate, I'm really intrigued to see if the top 6 will stay inside the first 60 picks or if they're going to ebb a little bit. I think everyone's going to kind of go into it with a little different thing, but even in the TGFBI, if you got 3 people trying to do the same build, now you're all fighting for the same people. And this is, I like and I hate some of these articles I see. Well, it's like, well, why would I take this guy when I can get this guy 100 picks later? Well, what if somebody takes him at pick 95?
Exactly.
Now you're screwed. Now you've missed both of them. So,
so here's one
you
of
have to have a plan and be willing to make that jump, and you have to read that room. And I know that's going to be the point. That's the point I made last night. That'll be the same thing I echo tonight when I talk to Ariel Cohen and Reuven. You know, you have to figure out the room that you're in, and you have to adjust to it. You can't just say, I'm taking Corey Knebel in the 12th. Well, if somebody likes him in the 10th, then you're screwed. So,
the main event, what's crazy too, is that historically starting pitching gets pushed up. And let's say that in the first round, now all of a sudden, it's not just Cole and Burns falls to the second. Let's say it's Cole, Burns, Scherzer, and say Walker Buehler, or insert your other favorite top 4, however you want to do that. And then all of a sudden, maybe, and they get pushed up high, and we're talking in the top, 9 picks. Say there's 4 in the top 10 that are taken. All of a sudden now that picks 9, 10, 11, where someone gets pushed up offensively. At that point, then maybe the idea of a closer makes more sense. Oh, you know what? I don't like the fifth starting pitcher. I like that gap, and then I'm comfortable with taking the tier of the Dylan Cease, Robbie Ray area, some of that grouping. And is that push up? And then subsequently, what happens if they push up the closer?
Well, as long as you're not in a draft with Dalton Del Don, you can.
Well, correct, exactly. And only so many people can see 75.
As I got to live through in TGFBI.
But it's going to be, what's the biggest fear we all have? Biggest fear is that you take a closer 2 rounds before anybody else takes one, and you go, shit, I could have just waited.
Right.
It is.
You don't want to be the guy taking a closer and it's crickets. So
that's the benefit, though, of taking one of the top 2, realistically. If you take Hader or Hendricks, it's hard to get crickets because everybody knows they're in a tier by themselves. Is when you take Iglesias at 2-6, something, right after you go boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden Presley's not taken to the end of the 5th. And then it's, at least for me, that's my separation. I know it's some of ours as well.
Well, yeah. And when you look at that article, look at the tout. I mean, Clase went 70th. God. And he was still the 4th closer.
Mm-hmm.
Friend of the program, Shelly Vergestrate took him. I was like, pick 70? I mean, I don't know. But again, the room allowed it to happen. Everybody was kind of, and I did listen to the live stream that Jeff Erickson put out with RotoWire about, I think that was during the labor mix draft, listening to them and Jason Collette and how that stuff was going on. They're like, well, this guy won't pay for saves. And again, if you're playing in a home league, you should know who the people who will and who the people who won't, and adjust accordingly. And so again, all of those factors structure into your plan. And I was talking to a buddy of mine today who just signed up for the site, Scott Cotter, and he teaches with me at school, and he's got his auction Friday night. So I gave him a nice 15-minute consult on the phone today. But he was saying, he's been in the finals 2 of the last 3 years in his head-to-head league because he does pay for closers. And he thinks this year, now people are seeing what he's been doing, he thinks the room this year is going to be a little bit more aggressive on him.
Hear that? If you're listening in and you want a 15-minute consultation with Greg, just let us know. We'll set that up.
Patreon.com/Reliever Recon. Greg's got time for all 2,000 of you for a 15-minute phone call. We actually do have some reliever-related breaking news.
What?
Not a player again, but your good buddy Derek Gould.
Here we go.
Says that the 3-batter minimum is going to stay. There was some talk that the 3-batter minimum was going to go away for 2022, but relievers who come into the game will have to stay in for a minimum of 3 batters.
Unless they enter during an inning.
Unless they enter, yes.
Because when I did that clean outings piece, I didn't realize how many of they're still loogies. They're just not as prevalent as they used to be. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the appearances for Loop and Tim Mize and a couple of others were of the 2-batter variety.
Aaron Loop came in to get out of some heavy jams last year.
Well, now we have to throw in the added wrinkle of the fact that, and it's obvious, the whole DH then changes a philosophical approach from the coaching staffs of the managers in the National League. That, there's some old school mentality, maybe not as much anymore. 5 years ago in the National League, there was, where it was pretty, this 3-batter rule, if this was implemented 15 years ago, it would have been chaos. It would have been anarchy. Every manager in the National League would have thrown a fit, and it would have led to chaos. Now, maybe not. I think more people are inclined to kind of do the
I think people
analytical role.
Year.
Yeah, I don't think that I felt like I was going to go in when it first got brought up that I was like, this is going to be crazy. They're not going to know what to do. All these specialists, and I don't really feel like it changed that much. I feel like it was just kind of one of those. What he said.
I was say I think the bigger change is the 13 pitcher max.
Oh yeah.
So the hybrid,
explain that. Yeah, explain that.
Yeah, well, I'm just the roster is constructed that you can only have 13 pitchers. So now that's going to change how you structure your bullpens and how you're going to do these things. Every team, to me, this almost signals that Nate Pearson's going to be in the bullpen all year. I have a hard time believing. I think Toronto will say we'll go trade for a veteran starter, and we can use Pearson as a 2-inning or multi-inning weapon. I can be wrong, and I would always message Rob about that, Silver, and see what his thoughts were, because he has a great pulse with the Blue Jays. But all these teams now, these hybrid guys take on bigger importance because there's no more seven inning doubleheaders. So You're talking full doubleheaders and whatever. I mean, you'll probably be able to add a guy still to that roster, so guys will be coming up from the minors to absorb some of those innings. But when we're going to be talking about health and keeping guys in amassing innings and working on rest, I mean, the Yankees usually don't like their reliever. They refuse to use Chapman 3 days in a row. This is going to change a lot of things. So I think this 13 pitcher rule actually helps my guy Loizica and other pitchers like that gain even more value in 15-team formats. I mean, that's going to be huge. And how teams do the Dodger rule, manipulating the injured list to keep guys healthy, is going to be very important. I mean, I can see the rosters churning through their relievers all season long. All right, Tommy Conley, it's your turn to take 10 days off. When you come back, Bickford, it's your turn to take 10 days off. Everyone's going to have a random hamstring injury with the Dodgers.
Dodgeritis, yeah.
It's going to be back.
That also makes me think there's a chance that, and I've heard conversation a little bit that maybe here with the Cardinals that Jordan Hicks doesn't start off on the major league roster, that he might start off in AAA, and they might try to work him if they're wanting to, stretch him out.
If he has options, yeah.
Yeah, and he does. I believe he does. I mean, I would double check to make sure, but
I mean,
the lot of moving pieces potentially with that too. And I don't know how much impact and how much in depth we will go right now into the 13-man situation. But I mean, it's all these, we've now brought up 3 different topics that all have different wrinkle effects, from visa issues to that. What was the other thing we talked about, Aaron, before Greg came on?
Visa. What are you reading? My credit card receipts?
Yes. 4287-1395.
Someone's
15 minutes of his time. No, Ranger Suarez.
I'm going to have to open another site just to pay for those.
Yeah. No, Ranger Suarez didn't get his visa in time and probably won't be make the opening day roster, and maybe other players might face the same impact potentially.
Now again, I tried to be good here. So I watched an episode of The Last Kingdom with Katie before I hopped in here and before I record with Ariel. But what are they saying? They expect people to report in 3 days?
The Mets have a voluntary workout tomorrow. And mandatory report is in 3 days. I'm going to get the exact dates for you. But and while we're doing that, we've got.
Oh, I saw the
Dan
games
chiming in.
I see some games are going to start on the 18th, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be
that's music to my ears. Now again, poor Katie. So now I'm going to get home from school, let the dogs out, feed them, and then it's going to be right over and watching spring training games. Who's pitching in the 4th and 5th inning? Who's getting those high leverage spots before the scrubs come in? So that's one of the keys of spring training is seeing who's pitching before they start making all the changes. But boy, injuries too this year are going to be a mess.
If you're listening, watching, and you want to send flowers to Katie, the address is 123 Main Street.
Pat Ragazzo, Mets beat reporter for SI, has voluntary workouts at Mets camp begin tomorrow. Mandatory report day is Sunday. On his way to Port St. Lucie.
So do the Mets make more moves?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, Dan. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for chiming in, Dan. Thanks for tuning in. Do the Mets make more moves? We're not. Greg, where do you think? I think Steve Cohen, despite the Cohen tax, he's going to do whatever he wants. He's already kind of proven that, right? So, I think that the team is not, as it's presently constructed, is not the team that we're going to see yet because they need some pitching, and some depth, things like that. But I don't know about blow somebody out. I don't think. I talked to my brother about this today. I don't think Clayton Kershaw or nothing like that's coming down the pipe.
But they need a lefty reliever.
Yeah, they don't have any.
They have to replace Loop.
Yeah.
So whether they're going to trade for Taylor Rogers or they're going to try and get Andrew Chafin, something of that nature's got to come down the pike. Without question. And
Brad Hand wasn't horrible for them last year. Just a name to throw out there.
He could come back. Yes,
he could still come back.
And that's actually Cohen could almost say, "Hey, we'll give you this." He doesn't have to overpay to get Brad Hand. I mean, Brad Hand needs the Mets more than the Mets need him.
Right. Tony Watson still viable lefty to even consider anymore? I mean, it seems like he
did better with the Giants, but yeah.
Every year at this time, it seems like Tony Watson's name is brought up as the lefty at one point.
While we're talking about free agents, Nate, let's get to the list that we made before we came on. Because we thought there's going to be some action tonight, but let's hide the collusion that everybody knows has been going on for 100 days because we don't want to look bad after Science Day. No one would care baseball. No one. There's not a single person who would give an F about it. But
as soon as the owners voted, if they voted and they opened the last sheet of paper and it was like, oh shit, all right, Craig Kimbrell is going to the Red Sox in exchange
Trevor Story is a Dodger. No
right,
one
exactly.
Would,
Kershaw's with the Rangers.
My TGFBI team would love that. Get Story on the Dodgers right now. I'd sign up for that yesterday.
Okay, so I made a quick list. We went to Spotrac, Spotrac. We know.
Do you know how to say that, Greg? Does anybody listening know exactly? Is it Spotrac? Is it Spotrac?
Well, before you say that, did you think it was Verbo and not VRBO? The place where you can rent someone's house. Did you call it VRBO before that, or did you not know about it?
Still call it VRBO.
It's Verbo.
It's not Verbo. It's VRBO.
Well, anyway, here's the list of relievers that are currently still out there outside of Kenley Jansen. And it's not really an awe-inspiring list, but guys with closing experience that could end up in a situation.
Don't say that because you've got Boxberger out there, Tapera.
I know. I'll get there. Trevor
Ian
Rosenthal,
Kennedy.
Brad Hand, Alex Colomé, Greg Holland, the aforementioned Ian Kennedy, Colin McHugh.
I thought Holland retired.
Did he retire?
I thought he retired 3 years ago. Did he not?
Well, when he should have and when he did might be two separate issues. But
Richard Rodriguez,
Dirty South.
Richard Rodriguez, Brad Boxberger, Ryan Tapera, Hansel Robles. Some closing experience, I know that, and Michael Givens always seems to be getting to this mix. If there's someone who wants to talk about freaking just off the wall relievers and guys who who you can stream every single week. It's our very own. It's Bullpen Guru and breaking news. He's gonna join the stream. So what's up, Bullpen Guru? Baseball's back, baby.
What's up, guys?
What's up? How the dishes go?
It's almost like Alex Colomé called you out from hiding.
All right. So I was listening until about 8:45, and then I stepped away
So
to
like
take care of
right
some
when I
stuff.
came on.
Okay, so then I
I take that personally. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I didn't see you, Greg. And I'm working on some cabinets that I got screwed up in my kitchen right now. So has anything happened yet? Because as of 8:45, nothing has really happened other than the Ranger Suarez news.
No,
the only breaking news we had was Ranger Suarez. So
Yeah, that kind of stinks. I kind of had a hunch that it wasn't going to be. The only thing I thought might happen is they might announce a bunch of trades like out of like respect for the players, because they obviously have to like go to their new team, their new spring training facility. So I was thinking they might just announce a bunch of trades tonight, because GMs can still talk to each other and like agree to trades in principle and just finalize them now. But I guess they haven't done that yet. So
I was kind of hoping that like the bartenders of the greater like Florida coasts and Arizona stadiums would be like, hey, blah 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 has been here for a week. Like,
Exactly.
and he typically doesn't train. He's been training with Boston on the left coast of Florida, but now he's been in Arizona for a week, kind of just like working out on the side here.
Yeah,
kind of hoping for a little bit of leaks like that, some kind of leak.
Yeah, most of those guys are in Arizona. Like they set up a whole workout situation out there for all the guys because of the lockout. So, but yeah, no, I hear you. It'd be nice to get something, but yeah, I'm not thinking much. But the thing I am very interested in is, if you think about it, so spring training, they have to report by Sunday, and it sounds like games might start on like the 18th, which is that's not a big ramp up for pitchers at all. And I think even April 8th, opening day, you're not going to get any starters going 5 innings. Like that's gonna be like late September for me, where you're like trying to figure out who's going to be pitching bulk relief games and stuff like that. Like I'm gonna be pretty busy early April. I think it's gonna be short outings and a lot of bullpens.
So we think some people may have just stumbled onto this YouTube live today, and they're like, who are these 4 guys? We are Reliever Recon, 4/5 at least of Reliever Recon. And you can find us at patreon.com/Reliever Recon. Fantasy baseball, mostly relief pitching. And so, but we do, we're here because we're happy that baseball is back, and we're talking about everything, not just relief pitching, not just fantasy baseball. But
I'm just happy to be on with a picture of Eric Gagne.
Yeah, I don't have my camera on because
I know it's okay.
But while you're hanging the cabinets, why don't you let anyone who's stumbled upon here know what they will be getting from you, because this isn't your first go around with trying to figure out how to appropriately insert relievers into your weekly fantasy baseball lineups, or even daily lineups.
Yeah. I mean, that was the big thing last year. Every day I posted middle reliever streamers, relief pitching streamers. So I focused a lot on guys that could vulture wins and pitch in bulk relief. So I think a lot of daily league points daily moves point leagues players picked up on it and really utilized a lot of my information. So kind of your wheelhouse, Aaron, in terms of the points leagues, but kind of my wheelhouse in terms of leagues that allow daily moves. So some of my favorite home leagues are that, and that's kind of a formula that I've deployed for years, is trying to stream middle relievers and just load up on starters and not worry about closers. But I think I'm going to mix it up this year. I think I'm going to kind of okie doke my league, and I think I'm going to go like heavy closers this year.
Love it.
Hey, one thing, but I'm gonna have to jump out of here, but maybe speak to him. We spoke about the 13 pitcher max on the roster, and I was saying that's really gonna bring a lot of importance to the guys that can work multiple innings. How do you feel about that? And with the knowledge that starters won't be able to go probably a full 5 innings at the beginning of the year, that puts even more importance on these guys that can do multiple innings, correct?
Yeah, so I also didn't know that. So is that part of the CBA? They say that the max.
That's supposedly gonna be part of the thing. So it's a 13 pitcher max on the active roster.
So they can't use the 26th roster spot for another pitcher is basically the goal behind that.
I would think it'll only be for double headers, which are now full 9 innings as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that's huge. That makes a lot of the multi-inning guys, and it makes you kind of wonder if some teams knew about this ahead of time with how they built their teams. Like Boston comes to mind right off the bat. Everybody's like, "Oh, what's Tanner Houck gonna do?" Like they signed
Whitlock.
Yeah, Houck and Whitlock, because they're like, oh, they signed Waka, they signed Rich Hill, they signed all these guys. But that kind of rule makes you think like maybe they knew something, because they're just signing a bunch of guys that can go 3-4 innings, and they might just structure their games in that manner where they throw 2 of them in one start and just do tandem outing. So yeah, it definitely brings value, especially if you can identify whose turn it is, which is where, I'll definitely try to pick up on that early and see if there's usage patterns like, oh, Waka pitches after Rich Hill and Rich Hill's starting today. So I'm going to, target Waka because he's going to be the one that's going to qualify. So yeah, it's definitely going to add value. And unless they, I heard that they were going to try to limit the amount of roster shuttling that they could do between the minors in terms of options and stuff like that, because that's the only other thing I could think of is that.
Yeah, I don't know if that one they haven't put that cap out there yet. And then my last follow up, because I got to jump off and get on the show with Ariel and Ruben, is I think the Dodgers are going to be very similar, and we can't forget that the Dodgers and the Red Sox front offices are offshoots from Tampa Bay. I mean, they're very comfortable and well equipped with building fluid staffs like this. And my last thing was, I thought with this move that this might keep Pearson in the bullpen. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. The other team that I think of too is Milwaukee, is another team like that where, Ashby and a couple of these other guys might be
even Lauer might not be.
Yeah. Or Hauser, one of those 2 guys.
Pearson, just hang on one second. Let me just while we're talking about this before Greg goes, because I know you're about to jump on another show. Evan Drellick reported on the final details of the CBA. Player can only be optioned 5 times per year.
5 times, okay.
That's not outrageous, but it's gonna limit a lot of what the Rays do. So
they'll figure out other ways to get around it. They'll
option a guy 5 times and they'll trade him for another guy with 5 options.
Exactly.
Restart that clock. All right.
Yep.
Hey guys, if you're still doing this when I'm done, I'll check back. But
if we're still doing this when you're done, that means something big happened, and we will definitely still be doing this.
But if not, it's no big deal. But I'll double check in the Twitter DM. So good talking to all of you guys. Yep. I'll check back in a little bit, and let's hope something happens worthwhile.
We'll see you in an hour, Greg.
But hey, we got baseball, guys.
We got
exactly.
baseball.
I can breathe again.
It's go time now. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Greg.
See you in a little bit. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you, Greg.
John Morosi did say recently that free agent talks are "quote unquote" extremely busy at the moment. In the words of one agent, but we're still only 2 hours into the market. Busy weekend ahead. I don't know if that means free agent talks are again. I'm not stupid enough to think that they don't already have 24 moves at hand, that they're just waiting systematically to, I don't know, be coy
just
about
logistically, right? Like we're saying, just logistically, these guys have got to get ramped up really quickly. I mean, I know we did this in the shortened season, so we have some experience with this, but these guys, they were all on rosters at that point, right? Like it wasn't a freeze on rosters.
Yeah, there's 300 players that are free agents. I mean, granted, minor leagues and majors, and I think and I was saying this kind of even going into this our show now, is that I really didn't expect to hear or see the Castellanos or any of the big offensive free agents, any of the pitching top end starters or even closers moving the Kimbrels or the Jansen signings or anything yet. I expected middle tier players who are roster fillers that are going to be in battle for competition that need to know where they're going versus wait until the last minute. But that's kind of the game. That's the game within the game also for some of these big names. You don't want to set the market, but you want to kind of set the market, because if you find out that I don't know, we'll use the closers thing since that's what we obviously talk about, but you don't want to be the Red Sox, or not the Red Sox, I'm sorry, you don't want to be the White Sox and see who has the most leverage or the least amount of leverage until Kenley Jansen signs. You don't want to make the trade prior to that, because as soon as he goes somewhere, the value, especially if they know who the second team in the running was, if they missed out, if he goes to the Padres and find out that the Dodgers were really, really chasing him, that tells us that they probably aren't as comfortable with Trinan as maybe we were led to believe. Maybe they would make a trade for Kimbrel. Those are all the dominoes that are eventually going to fall.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at this point the leverage play is like gone. Like a lot of free agents have signed, and like you kind of, I think like everyone's gonna be like, all right, best and final, like, Saturday at noon or something like that, and free agents are gonna have to decide because, like even Bryce, right? Like it played out until about this time. And then he signed, and that was a long slog, right? So I don't know. I kind of feel like it's just going to be everybody at once. I don't really think there's many more like markets to be set. It's going to be like name your price, best and final type of thing. But we'll see what happens.
Some player-related breaking news, not a player itself, but something that maybe had been forgotten or not talked about, since we haven't talked much about the COVID-19 virus. Mm-hmm. But unvaccinated players won't be able to go to Canada and play. And so Trips headed to Toronto, guys. Aroldis Chapman, I'm not saying he's not vaccinated, but Aroldis Chapman is unvaccinated. Jonathan Loizaga is. That's a bit of information we might need to know that week that New York goes up to Toronto. So just
you'll know pretty quickly. But that definitely impacts. That definitely makes you want to hesitate on any like AL East player that you don't know.
That's actually what I have pulled up right now. Unvaxxed AL East players, and needless to say, none that I can pull up. But
yeah, I don't think that information is very readily available, but I'm sure that you could definitely get there.
You could kind of, if you read the tea leaves of like last year, where certain guys, if they tested positive or whatever, and they were able to return back in a certain time frame, like it was kind of like a wink, wink, nod, nod type thing, where it's like they tested positive, but you can expect them in 10 days, whereas some guys were like, we don't know when we're going to get them back type thing.
Right.
So
yes, I think just another wrinkle here to this season. This is the stuff like, God, I didn't
think about this when I drafted my 12 teams before. But
how can you? We joke about that. Yeah. I remember going into the football season last year. It was, does Zeke getting COVID preseason, does that make him move up 2 or 3 spots because he can't? Because we thought that you get it, you're immune, you get a vaccine, and you're super immune. Little do we know that term vaccine can be changed by the CDC now. Whatever. We're not talking about COVID. We're not going to go into that. This is baseball. Yeah. But I am. So September of last year, Chris Sale says he's not vaccinated. I mean, granted, I don't know how many starts Chris Sale was going to make in Toronto, but
yeah. Well, maybe that's why they got so many. Maybe that's why they got so many.
Oh, look at us digging! Breaking news. Do. Do you have an audio clip for that either? Okay.
I don't have any audio teed up for this. I mean, I thought, I've been duped by the pending deal too many times here. Okay, so while Nate steps away here, when this deal was announced, what was the first thing that you thought about? Did you think about watching the Mets play? Were you like, all right, let me get myself into a few more fantasy drafts? Like, where was your mind as soon as this deal came about?
I was like so beaten down by it. I think by all the roller coaster of like up and down, thinking that it was close before that. I think I was like jaded to it all, and I was just like, I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. Like I'm not. Plus today was like a pretty busy day at work, so I was like, normally I'm kind of like keep refreshing Twitter, but I messaged you guys. I was like, wait, is there a deal done yet? Because I couldn't keep up. So, I mean, yeah, it's good. It kind of makes your head just starts thinking about all this different stuff, though. But like when am I going to draft my home league? When when are spring training games going to start? But I mean, it's all good stuff. Like I'm pumped. I can't wait to see. And yeah, then so yeah, you're gonna. But yeah, just I guess prepare for like an onslaught of news between the signings, the trades, injury news. Guys that there's such little news that has come out, but there's certainly stuff out there. Some people are definitely hurt and things like that. So yeah, we'll see. Just get ready because it's coming. It's going to come real fast, real quick.
Can you
Early
imagine
next week's gonna be crazy?
Just in general, the GM for some of these teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, you want to think they're proactive, but there's
only so much you could do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of how, I would think that they're all talking throughout the lockout because, they can still conduct league business and stuff like that. So I would think that they're all still talking, but like, yeah, I was thinking that though, Nate. I was like, imagine like one GM just like went rogue and was like, this deal's not happening after that. I'm just gonna go to like, they're on a beach somewhere and then like, they just get like a message. It's like, it's go time. It's like, oh fuck,
What?
Why are you wishing this on Billy Upland, man? Why are you wishing this? This is the most Metsy Mets thing I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mets GMs spotted in Tijuana.
Yeah, exactly.
No, what it'd be is he would be spotted in Curacao, and then the links are like, wait, Kenley Jansen's from Curacao. Oh no, super move. They're gonna bring those two together and all that kind of stupid. Actually, that stuff's gone, thank God. I think we're so jaded by the last 2 months worth of or 2 weeks worth of crap that I don't think anybody believes what anybody's going to say, but we're so hungry for news. What a great time to re-troll Jeff Passan or rehack him is to come out and just send a barrage of fake he signs here tweets just to see what would happen.
That was crazy too, because I was like, wait, does that mean that it wasn't real? Like, does that mean that they didn't actually agree to the draft stuff like after he got hacked? So
no, it means it was never actually a lockout. They had this is all a ruse, and they've always had an agreement.
That's really interesting to say that. What did we actually miss in the lockout? Like, let's think about it for a second. It's March 10th.
What did we miss, or what did the teams miss?
What did the fans miss?
Man.
I'm not trying to say that this was not like some angst, a little bit of painstaking, like annoyance. I think there are. I bet there are more fans that had no effing clue there was a lockout until this week than we want to believe.
Here, Dom, and I know you have something to say, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but I'm going to say this, that I believe this might be not good for the game, far from good, but the anticipation of this year, the expectation and bliss is so much heavier than it's been because what we miss is kind of just that look on blase, like, yeah, we got baseball's gonna start.
You ever have a pitchers and catchers? You ever have a pitchers and catchers party?
Yeah, exactly. No. Oh no.
Okay.
God, no,
you were gonna say yes because you were the only person in North America would have ever had a pitchers and catchers party. But yeah, I mean, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. So I'm gonna step back for a second, and then I'll.
No, what I had said was that I think that they should do.
I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, no problem. I think they should do a transaction freeze from December 1st to like February 1st of every year, because the free agent frenzy right before and the trades right before the freeze, was really exciting. And then you can kind of, let things kind of cool off and simmer down for the holidays, and let like these GMs like have Christmas and things like that. Because like the worst was the how free agency in major leagues has evolved the last 4 or 5 years, where the everything dragged so long into like I said with Bryce, all the way till March. And that sucked so bad. It just takes all the excitement out of it when every team and GM is kind of giving these lowball offers or these like ridiculous stuff, and they're just kind of stalling. So having that pressure to get something done quickly was really good. It made the that free agency period right before the lockout really exciting. And I think they should just continue like leverage that. Like you get headlines for November, when baseball never gets headlines. And then you just have a cool off, and then you can open things back up in February, and that still gives you 2 or 3 weeks before pitchers and catchers report to finalize your rosters.
The Monday after the Super Bowl is the day that you can start making transactions, and and you take back what you're never going to get from football between November and February. You're not getting it. It's not happening. And so if Major League Baseball is serious about growing the game with the younger folks, they can't compete with the NFL like the NFL does in 12 months. 12 months a year, the NFL is king. You can't compete with them if you're spreading out your off season over freaking 5 months. You just can't do it.
Yeah. So the winter meetings are a big thing, right? So, but that's always a couple weeks before Christmas. So make the roster freeze at the end of the winter meetings. So the GMs are all together in whatever, San Diego or whatever. And so they're all together. They can work out trades and stuff like that, and free agents can sign and put on the jersey and put on the hat. And then after that, when the last day that they're all leaving, they do the Rule 5, and then rosters freeze. I think that would be really, really good for the game. So what we missed was really free agency dragging up until this point anyway. Now I know there's still a bunch of big free agents unsigned, but the majority, or a good majority of them, have signed. So I would like to see that. I would like to see the freeze of rosters right after, at some point before the holidays through. Yeah, that's a good time, right after the Super Bowl, Monday after the Super Bowl. But they're moving the Super Bowl later and later. So pitchers and catchers are going to.
It has to be reasonable to get the season going. Sure.
But maybe the week, maybe you do it the
week in between, right?
Yeah, the Monday after
championship weekend.
Championship weekend. Yeah, exactly. I think that would be good.
Like I said, I know that those of us who write about baseball and follow it day to day felt like baseball was gone for 100 days. I think the average baseball fan felt like baseball was gone since Monday. It
was tough to get inspired. Like it was tough to I've been dragging my feet in terms of some of the articles that I've been wanting to write, but truthfully, it was like I was tough to get inspired by it, because I was just like, am I gonna write this stuff and look at this stuff for nothing? And so I kind of distracted myself with doing just a bunch of fantasy drafts, which is I don't know if that's a better alternative, because but I was doing that for a while, but I kind of told myself like, all right, once I'm gonna do these drafts until some of the industry leagues, TGFBI and RASLAM, and then I'm going to ramp up writing and stuff like that for the season. And yeah, it's tough to get inspired, but now I'm pretty much done with drafts, so I can just kind of focus on covering everything, which is kind of good. I'm excited.
That's interesting that you chose to kill the time by drafting. I kind of took like the exact opposite approach. I kind of went like, there's still a lot of uncertainty about possibly like the rules of the game.
Yeah.
There's still like some, at least some decently major free agents that could kind of swing lineups one way or another, or change some rules, and guys who I might like a little more in different locations, things like that. So where typically I'm ready to draft like Christmas hits, the New Year, like as soon as the holidays end, I'm ready to draft. That's typically like my ready to draft, because I wanna get a good feel for the draft pool before the drafts that are most important to me, which typically occur in March.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason why I blame you guys, because the last time we spoke was when I said I really like Corey Knable, or maybe it was 2 times ago, but I said, you know, I really like Corey Knable. And then I was like, I want to start doing some drafts because I can get him really cheap. And I started getting him in, like, I have him round 29 and I think round 30 in 2 of my draft champions leagues, my first 2 drafts of the year. And then once he signed with Philly, he's jumped up to, like, you know, 7th, 8th, 9th round. And I refused to pay for him in that range. Once I have him in at 29 and a 30 round value in other DCs, just doesn't make sense to do that. I did get him in TGFBI in like round 11, but I blame you guys, because then once I started drafting, I just couldn't stop. It was like too addicting and too fun, and it was just too easy of a way to kind of like fill the void of baseball. So, yeah, so you guys owe me like 8 drafts, 150.
send your receipts to Greg Jewett at GJewett9.
So you owe me like $1,200 in draft
Entry
champions
fees.
leagues, and then I did 2 auctions. I'll cover those. I'll cover the auctions. That was my own doing. But
so what happens when when Kimbrel actually goes there and we saved you from drafting him in?
Well, I got Kimbrel in a couple. I actually like Kimbrel at his value too. So where I wouldn't pay for Knable as like a 8th or 9th round pick, because I already has him at a 30. In those leagues, I just grabbed as much Kimbrel as I could in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. So
that's an interesting point, Dom, because there's sorry.
No,
There's so many situations where in auctions you have, let's say you get Cedric Mullins last year for $3. The value or the cost that he is this year, once you have him for that cheap, it's hard to invest much more. It's kind of like you're like, no, I got him in the 30th round, and I don't want to spend 9th round dollars on him because he was worth 30, even though he's worth a 9th round pick right now. If he's actually the closer in Philly for the entire season, there's no doubt. But yeah, once you get a taste of it in the 30th, it's really hard to spend up.
Well, truthfully, it's not even that it's like, oh, he's a 30th round value. It's that, and maybe I look at it the wrong way, and I'm sure Aaron will disagree with me because he and I just have different views of ADP and things like that in terms of valuing players. Yeah. But when, you know, from my perspective, when I look at it, because, you know, you kind of look at it when you play this number of, and I know it's not as many as a lot of other people, but, you know, eight DCs is kind of an investment. And when you look at it from an investment perspective, when you think that you have a guy that you've paid for 29th and a 30th round, and then other people are now paying 7th and 8th, like, you know that there's competition out there that have drafted other players at a 7th and 8th, and I have Knable as a 29th and a 30th. So to then kind of yourself pay that 7th and 8th and 9th round value for a guy that you already have in other spots at the 30th, you kind of like undercut yourself, because you I don't know, I feel like you kind of already, you have potential value, you have potential profit there, and paying a 7th and an 8th round for the same player, you're kind of taking away a lot of the profit potential you could have on that player, that you can maybe invest in somebody else. Like you could take that 7th and 8th round pick and spend it on Yelich or Bellinger, who could become, they have first round value. So, whereas what's Knable's like max value, right? He probably isn't going to return much more than a top 100 player. So you're kind of like paying this you're paying at the height of the value that he could return. So that's how I look at it, is like, what kind of return can I get from my quote unquote investment in the player?
Yeah. So
we could talk about ADP forever, but
you can. I know.
Yeah.
And honestly, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's 1,000 different ways to perceive value and draft and everything else. But there's only one way to answer a question as such. Guru, who of the top 12 closers, according to the Reliever Recon ADP Consensus 2.0, will lose their job first, not barring injury?
No,
all right.
Barring injury, not barring injury.
Barring injury.
Okay. All right. So let's work backwards, because who's our 12th guy consensus?
Yeah, I got it.
Go ahead.
I got it. So we're working down from Romano, Gallegos, Kimbrel,
So
Smith.
my initial reaction when I heard the question was Romano, but I want to see if there's somebody that I think that is even higher ranked that I think might lose their job.
Okay, so Romano, Gallegos, Kimbrel, Smith, Chapman, Jansen, Diaz, Clase, Presley, Iglesias, Hader, Hendricks.
I think I'm gonna go Smith. I think he's the highest ranked one that's the question, right? Who's the highest ranked reliever that I think might lose their job first?
No, just which of that group is going to lose their job first.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be the highest ranked. Just lose their job first.
I'll flip a coin between Romano and Smith. What did you guys said, Aaron? You said Clase, right?
Yeah, I did.
I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of torn on that one, because Francona likes to do weird stuff with his relievers, and even though I think Clase is the best reliever in their bullpen, that doesn't mean that he's going to be their closer, because that's how Francona has operated for years with his guys. He'll, for years he used, like, who was it, like Brian Shaw or something like that, when he had Miller, and he had I can't remember who else they had, but he was
options,
he was not their best option. Sure. Yeah, so he is like in my opinion, like the prototypical guy that relies on his high leverage reliever and doesn't necessarily make them the closer. So that is not a bad call, but until I see Karinchak control his stuff with without the sticky stuff, I can't really be that concerned with him. I think the confidence, he lost a lot of confidence from the Guardians with how he pitched after the crackdown. So we'll see. He's got the stuff, but he's got to harness it. So we'll see. If there's a tackier ball, we haven't gotten anything like that in terms of news, right? In terms of any kind of ball changes.
Haven't heard of baseball change news. Nate's going to dig that up right now. But you're not scared of you're slightly scared of the Guardians, but you don't know who to be scared of.
Yeah.
Which guy are you going with? You going with Smith or you going with Romano? Who's going to be out first?
All right. So Nate, who'd you say?
I said Smith.
Okay, so if you said Smith, you probably already made the case. So I'll go Romano, because his injury situation kind of worries me.
Can't be injury.
Can't be injury. Okay.
Yeah, it can be whatever you want.
I think. Well, I still think that they could sign somebody. Like, they have enough money that they could sign a free agent. They already did sign Garcia. I don't think that Garcia is going to beat him out for the job outright, but I don't know. I think there's sneakily like a lot of options for the Blue Jays as it stands now, and probably still could bring somebody in. So, yeah, I don't feel great about the Romano situation.
See, it's interesting because a lot of people have Romano as kind of this guy that is locked in, right? Like there's a lot of there's a lot of people drafting Romano thinking that they are, I don't want to say outsmarting, but they are beating that they're beating the current market on relief pitching and just saying, well, look at what he did last year. But they're ignoring the first the first month of the season where they tried everything and anything to pitch somebody else in that role. And he did an excellent job. I mean, he did an excellent job when he was thrust into that situation. But, geez, I mean, the Blue Jays didn't run out and be like, "Hey, preseason closer injury, we got this. Don't worry, we got this guy Jordan Romano, Rule 5 pick. He's the guy who's going to slide in and be our closer." I mean,
I know you guys said not injury related, but like, doesn't he have like or some kind of tear in his knee? Like
he did have a knee injury for sure,
and he didn't get it surgically repaired. So I mean, maybe that is my concern with him, and that's why I'm not so high on him. Is like I'm genuinely very concerned about his injury like situation. I'm very concerned about competition. I'm very concerned about like if Julian Merriweather is healthy.
He did undergo surgery.
Okay.
To fix it. It was a torn meniscus, so it's not ACL repair, which is still you had surgery on your knee. I mean, there's some caveat.
Haven't seen him thrown a pitch since, right?
Yeah, and what's his rehab been like and stuff like that, and so I mean he's concerning. If Merriweather's healthy, I still think he could like do the job. It's very hard for him to stay healthy, but like I also really like Thomas Hatch. And then Nate and Greg mentioned him before he left was like Nate Pearson though. So I think there's still like a lot of options just there to begin with. And so, yeah, I don't have like a very good feeling about Romano at all. I've drafted 12 teams. I have zero shares of Romano. So put my money where my mouth is with him there.
Go ahead. Because I know that Romano by far, if you ask me, is the one that we have gut feelings about things. And you can't control a gut feeling, and it doesn't have to be rational or reasonable or any other superlative to describe it. But Toronto seems it's just the landing spot that I see somebody going to and disrupting that bullpen. And I don't know why. And a person who believes in Romano wholeheartedly can defend that, and I'm not going to argue one way or the other. I don't think it's skill-based that they're interested in bringing someone in. I think it's comfort-based, and I just don't think that they've given me enough signs that they're comfortable with him because it feels like he was a process of the last man standing rationale.
Yeah, I think that's what my feeling is with him too, is like Montoya last year, I just didn't feel like he trusted anybody, and it was just Dolis was hurt and was bad, and Merriweather got hurt, and Brad Hand was there, right? And he stunk. So yeah, I don't know. I just think until I see him really trust one guy exclusively, I'm not sure I'm willing to invest what the cost was for Romano when you could just draft somebody like Kimbrel. I mean, I think that was just the issue, was like he was in a decision all the time, but there was always just somebody I had a better gut feeling about, and so I was like, all right, I'm just going to trust my gut here.
We've talked a lot about Craig Kimbrel in the 2 hours we've been on this show, and there are probably people who are playing in 10 and 12 team leagues who are thinking, why am I going to draft the guy who's pitching behind Liam Hendricks in my league as my first closer, my first relief pitcher on my roster? And of course, we don't have any news on him being moved, but I know Nate and I have discussed this plenty of times. Are we putting this cart so far before the freaking horse that we have decided that we're going to be the ones who are going to make Craig Kimbrell get traded somewhere that, one, doesn't have a closer, or two, just in general, to a situation where he's going to just slide right in. Have we overestimated the likelihood that a move, and now with this expedited spring, and a season where there's going to be lots of no rest weeks for teams, more no rest weeks than there have been in the past, or some 18 inning double headers, maybe Chicago's like, all right, well, just keep him.
Well, so obviously their dynamic as far as what their expectation for 162 is a tricky spot. And I'll leave it at this as far as I'm concerned. Why would I take Kimbrell? And the answer I gave last night is the same answer I'm sticking with, is that if I knew that proverbial cart that's going to go before the horse had a potential pair of rocket boosters underneath it that could escalate my 10th round pick and to be in a 4th round pick, I think that's the value, the risk reward that you need in order to do so. Because as I said, I don't think there's too many players that have 6th round ADP jump potential as he does. Dom, what would you say to that rationale for drafting Kimbrell?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is he's owed I think 16 or 18 million dollars, right? And their owner is Jerry Reinsdorf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's notoriously one of the cheapest scoundrel owners in the league. They signed Kendall Graveman as a free agent, so they kind of have built up a nice bullpen to the point that they don't really need Kimbrell, and he's on the last year of his deal, and there's no shortage of teams that need closers at the moment. So it just makes, to me, it makes sense that he would be traded. And I think he's a guy that, the White Sox look at what they got from him last year, and I just think he is the proverbial capital C closer. He's just a guy that needs to pitch the 9th inning in order to perform well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably a guy that wants to be traded. He wants to be a closer. I'm probably pretty sure that he's not super happy being the 8th inning guy.
No.
And now the check still clears, and it's still for the 18 million. So whatever at the end of the day, it doesn't really impact what his paycheck is. But he's playing for probably a Hall of Fame career. And so, I think if he had any say in it, he would want to go somewhere to be the closer. He performs better as a closer, just based on his short sample with that when he's not one. The White Sox have some holes to fill, right? They could use second baseman.
Mm-hmm.
They could use a center fielder. I mean, are they going to play Robert?
He's probably going to move to center, and they're looking for a right fielder. We had Crystal O'Keefe on the podcast, and she was
probably. I mean, Andrew Vaughn hopefully is their starting. It should be the right fielder. Gavin Sheets is still young to throw into an everyday DH role. I mean, he could, but he'll platoon.
Yeah.
Here's a question, and here's something or a situation. And you guys tell me what you think of this, if it's possible or doable, if it makes sense. The White Sox have 2 contracts right now that they realistically would love to unload and return value for. Number 1 is a valuable commodity, Craig Kimbrell. Number 2 is a worthless commodity in Dallas Keuchel. Dallas Keuchel's owed nearly $20 million for this upcoming year. If they could find a way to shave off that $20 million, so let's say that they could package Keuchel and Kimbrell to a team and ask for very little to nothing in return, except they take on Dallas Keuchel's contract. They shed approximately $35 million. They're able to then bring in next to nothing commodity-wise, but they free up enough money. They actually go out and they sign a Nick Castellanos type to play right field, or they go after a Trevor Story and they allow him to play second base if he's willing to do so.
You're talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers. going out and just eating up some money here with Kimbrel and Keuchel, right? Something like that.
I mean, that's a scenario. I think I want to say the Red Sox, but I mean, we already know their pitching staff has
plenty of those guys.
Way too many. Rich Hill, Dallas Keuchel, that's ugly.
Josh Beckett not available. Speaking of the Dodgers, we got some little bit of rumorage going out here. John Paul Morosi.
I like John Morosi.
Talking about the Dodgers' interest in Freddie Freeman being sincere.
Yeah.
And sources tonight saying that he could be the next free agent to sign here.
Yeah, I really, and I've said this since last, April, when Freddie Freeman wasn't getting extended by the Braves. You can check Twitter. I would kind of trolling Braves fans about how he was going to look great as a Dodger, but yeah, it's so weird that they didn't re-sign him. That should have been their priority last offseason. They shouldn't have even let it get to a walk year unless Freeman was not interested in re-signing in Atlanta and had intentions of going to LA all along because he's a California guy. And I also kind of thought that too, was maybe the reason he hasn't gotten an extension is because he wants to go home. Totally legitimate, desire on his part. He has this beautiful house in California. So I always thought that he was going to go there. And then what the Dodgers did in the, early offseason really, to me, indicated that they're kind of waiting to see what the deal is with Freeman before doing anything, because I heard somebody say this, that I think Kenley actually, the lack of move on Kenley makes you think that they're trying to save some money for Freeman.
It wouldn't shock. I mean, so before the lockout, the Dodgers were, from what I understand, were offering Kenley a 3-year deal, a little bit more AAV, and he wanted that 4th year. And I mean, even if they didn't have plans for Freeman at that time, the ability to pivot, I think it makes sense. You think that the fact that Max Muncy hasn't even, or just now or whenever it was, just started swinging a bat, makes it even more of a likely scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was always likely just because Muncy's kind of flexible. He can play second, he can play third,
right.
And Justin Turner can DH a bit. You can DH both Muncy and Turner a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They have such a flexible roster that you could kind of fit him, and then you give them a DH now too. It's they're gonna, they're gonna maximize that. So I just always thought that it was a fit, and what they did just really made me feel like they're gonna get him. Letting
Seager walk.
Seager go, right? Yeah, a middle of the order left-handed bat, and just letting him walk. I just feel like they were all right, we're gonna turn our attention to somebody else.
Very interesting. All right, so the Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers thing gets signed. Let's say that happens. The Braves trade for Matt Olson, or the Braves sign Anthony Rizzo? Either or no, neither, and they go a different direction.
Yeah, I don't. They don't have any kind of first base prospect, right? Yeah, they don't.
Not that I know. They don't have any first baseman, even major league level, if you ask me right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Orlando Garcia, but
yeah, I mean, I just feel like other teams are going to be able to offer a little more for Olsen. I don't know what Atlanta would be able to really give for him. And I don't know. I don't feel like they're super. If they were to let Freeman walk, not or if Freeman were to leave, they just won a World Series. Like, I don't know. I feel like they might almost be inclined to just try to, figure, let Acuna get really, really healthy and kind of write this year off and kind of try to rebuild a little bit and restructure. But,
well, I mean, the lineup's not bad. Let's be honest. I mean, if you have Swanson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Acuna, Ozuna, Adam Duvall, Travis d'Arnaud, that's not a bad 1 through 6 right there. I mean, if Christian Pache actually continues to develop, then you have another piece there that, I mean, not talking about a middle of the order bat necessarily early on or anything, but a developing piece.
Yeah.
Aaron, what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, Doc. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, Swanson in his last year, right? I think Charlie Morton's in his last year. It could be kind of an opportunity to like do a quick little rebuild, because I just really don't think Acuna, like, I know Acuna is getting drafted as like a fifth, like the overall number 5 pick and all this stuff, but I just think that the timeline for him is really, really short, and I think that his production is not going to be what we normally get out of Acuna. And so I just think that without Freeman, they're really going to have a hard time competing. And so I could see them doing like just taking a step back and being like, let's rebuild this stuff really quickly and rebuild around Acuna. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think they've definitely got their core guys in their mind in Riley, Albies, and Acuna, and they've surrounded them with plenty of veterans in like Duvall and Ozuna coming back. Obviously, their pitching staff is not aged outside of Morton. So I think I've got a kind of a different opinion on Atlanta. I kind of hate that they've got kind of all these guys, even Albies and Acuna on the cheap, if you want to consider that on the cheap. So definitely would be happy to see Freeman leave the division. I mean, if we get him to the AL West, that'd be even better. But yeah, because I think Freddie's still got plenty of years left of high level production. So I think any team that invests a 6-7 year deal in him is going to get every dollar's worth. I don't think he's one of these guys who's going to like fade into oblivion. His skills just, he reinvents himself seemingly on the fly. I've seen him in mid series pulling off the ball too much, and then next thing you know, he's smoking balls down the left field line. So Freeman's he's too good of a ball player. But I think the Braves have built something pretty decent. And those other guys who are around them, like the Ozunas, the Duvalls, and even like the Mortons and stuff like that. Those guys are, I don't want to say replacement level. They're slightly above replacement level, but they can just cycle those guys through and kind of do that quick reboot, like you mentioned, without Freeman. But we do have a little bit of weird news coming from Kevin Acee. And of course, San Diego Padres beat writer, and it says that the roster size to start the season has not yet been determined. It's not been determined if it's going to be just 26 players here.
So they might do what they did in 2020, where they started with like 28, and then after a couple weeks, they dropped down to the 26.
Sure.
That would make sense.
It seems likely, right? It makes sense with with how expedited this all has to be now.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits for some of these teams too that they've taken is that they've not had some of these players on the 40-man, and they've been able to actually work out with teams and continue to go on. I use the Cardinals as an example, is that Matthew Liberatore and Nolan Gorman and some of the other top prospects were able to still train and get workouts in. Not saying that they would be the 26 to 28, like as far as that jump goes, but it makes you have to wonder how far into the depths that the teams might reach to add to the roster. But there's still 13. They wouldn't change that. Or does that change to 14 pitchers when they do that? Isn't that how they did that before?
I think that's how he did it before. So he did go on to clarify that the CBA set the roster size at 26 until it goes to 28 in September, but that there was expectation throughout the negotiations and throughout the winter that should things get pushed back, that they would consider expanding the rosters prior to opening day. So speculation, sure, but kind of makes sense. I mean, the worst thing that could possibly on both sides for players and the owners is to have a bunch of games where starting pitchers are Jake DeGrom's walking off the mound in the third inning because he's hurt.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing for baseball. And so to go a 4-week expanded roster, and even the stingiest of owners would agree that protecting their investment by paying a few extra guys, a few extra dollars is well worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they had this in 2020, and I don't know if you guys followed Derek Rhodes. Like he was really tracking the injuries in that season really closely, and the pitcher injuries were like out of control at the beginning of 2020. So even with the extra guys, it just gives me a lot of concern. And I hope that most of these guys have been ramping up as if it were, regular season starting mid-February and started just throwing bullpens and stuff. And it's not kind of pulled together at the last minute like 2020 was, where, everything was in flux and people might not have been having access to certain training facilities and stuff like that. But yeah, that would stink if we have another big injury start to the year.
And if you're watching and you don't follow Derek Rhodes, you follow him at DRHOA3. Derek is a member of SLARF. Derek and I had a draft just 5 days ago, whenever that was, here in St. Louis. So yeah, I follow Derek's stuff, and we had little conversations about injuries in general, and just a really fascinating guy to follow. You actually were brought up twice in the draft, just so you know. Guru, if makes you feel any better. We're talking about that a little bit. And then Greg Sheeran mentioned that he followed your fruit kind of suggestions quite well, because he had daily moves.
Yeah, I remember he was always somebody. That's the funny thing was, like, I developed this little community of like people that were always super active with me on Twitter in terms of it was almost like I built this little like army of people, and it was really helpful for me because like as soon as somebody I can only follow so many beat writers and stuff like that, and I can't watch every single like post game press conference with like the manager, they announce who's going to be starting tomorrow and stuff like that. So, but everybody was super helpful in terms of like DMing me, like, oh, the Padres just announced that they're going to go with a bullpen day tomorrow or whatever. So it made my job a lot easier. And I had this group chat of 20 people that were super active with me, and towards the end of the year, all September, we were just sharing news, giving advice to people. People were like, oh, give us some picks for tomorrow, give us some early picks before you post them, because my league mate, I'm playing my league mate, he follows you too, so it was pretty funny. So yeah, I think Greg was one of the guys that was super responsive to any of my tweets in terms of who he was targeting and stuff like that. So it's cool.
And I can see that. Greg was a really, you can tell. First of all, great person. Seemed really glad that he could join the league and made the trip here with his family for the weekend. But definitely, finger on the pulse with a lot of things. Very engaged, very good fantasy player, good drafter. And yeah, and he, like you said, it's a niche group of people that would follow that. Weekly settings, it's hard to implement that all the time, but you're right. I mean, your little army of people. Let's hopefully they. I know a lot of them have followed it over here to Reliever Recon. I know.
Yeah.
Well, I assume at least I know some of the names.
Yeah, I recognize a couple names. I gotta now that we have the season, and I'm gonna try to start selling my stuff to people that followed me in the past, and really try to get people on board, because I haven't, I've only written a handful of articles so far, but you're gonna see my stuff every day once April 7th or 8th or whatever it is rolls around. But like, all the stuff that's on there now is just super, super helpful for just getting ready for the season. Like, if there was a time to join, I would say like now is the time, because you kind of it's not like you don't get to view all the stuff that we've been working on since last October. You have it all accumulated for you now to kind of go back and look at, plus you kind of get caught up to speed on everything that's going on now, so you kind of get a lot of value for waiting, I would say.
Yeah, if you go to a buffet and you get there early enough, and all they do is they put out the French fries, and you get a French fry to eat, and they put each thing out, and you get to sample it. Or you go late, and you have the entire buffet to sample from. You can have a handful of Guru's chicken wings. You can get some of Aaron's, I'm going to say toasted, Emo's pizza.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of food conversations lately. Good stuff.
All right. It doesn't look like we're going to get too many player moves.
Yeah, it stinks, right?
What?
So all right. So I don't know.
Let's talk about this. Are you because we're not, let's not be down on this. Baseball's back. It's just like freaking.
Well, that's what I wanted to get.
6 hours ago, you were holding your breath because Max Scherzer and Francisco Lindor on the executive council, and they were going to vote this thing freaking down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to get weird with it. I wanted to pull up. So I'm gonna try to pull up. So I'm on my phone right now. Obviously, I'm gonna try to pull up odds, but I don't know if I like go to a different app. I don't know if it disconnects me. So I'm gonna try something really quick. If it disconnects me, I'll join back. But I'm gonna try see if I can pull up some stuff.
Nate and I'll talk about gummy bears.
You got gummy bears?
I got gummy dinosaurs, which they're not mine. So thank you, Tucker, for sharing your. Thank you, Tucker, for sharing your gummy dinosaurs.
I have Starburst.
Do you prefer Haribo, Albanese, or do you have a gummy bear that stands out above the rest? Or are you even a gummy bear eater?
I'm a gummy bear when they're presented.
Okay.
I know the brand Haribo.
Okay.
But I can't say that I like fresh, whoever that may be. Oh, we got two. Oh, no, I'm back to only one.
Oh, I got feedback.
No, we got
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
how about that?
Okay. I think it was
You're
on my side. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that didn't work. I tried to close the app and go
What do you want the
to, but I'll get my laptop. I'll get my laptop out. I'm getting lazy.
Let's go back to this. So
yeah, so I wanted to see some odds. Oh, gummy bears. Oh well, no. So I wanted to pull up some odds and see if they started posting like MVP odds and stuff like that, and see if there's anybody that you guys liked. Long shots.
Long shot MVPs. Well, I have to have some odds in front of me, but I imagine that that a guy like how long are we talking? Like, we're talking Pete Alonso long, or are we talking like I don't know.
I'm gonna pull up. All right, I'm gonna pull up player awards.
Like Jose Abreu long.
Yeah. So all right. So AL MVP. So right now there are 3 guys that are under 15-1. So everybody besides.
Okay.
So Ohtani is plus 300 AL MVP. That's a terrible bet right now. Trout plus 350 AL MVP. That's a terrible bet right now. Vlad Guerrero plus 400. I don't think that's a good bet right now. I don't think there's enough value there. But there are very interesting people.
I'm going to go ahead and name yours for us. I'm guessing at plus 2,200.
Yeah, that's who I was looking at. Yeah,
you gotta let me in.
Yordan Alvarez plus 2,200, okay. But Jose Ramirez plus 20-1 for AL MVP.
I know, I see that.
There's a lot of other interesting ones here too, though. Like Byron Buxton is 4,500 or 45.
So we like Jose Ramirez because he does a lot of fantasy things, right? And he's like kind of well stocked to help your fantasy team. But is there like one thing that Jose Ramirez is going to do this year that's going to win him an MVP? I think I think like is he gonna hit 400 or like is he gonna hit 370 or something like that? No.
Yeah, and he doesn't win MVP for like replacement value of being like the best third baseman at a shitty position. Right. So
that's not gonna help him. Yeah, that's not gonna help him win. Much better.
Luis
interestingly enough, much better fantasy player than. He's a talented baseball player. I won't take anything away from him.
Yeah. You got to think about MVP as like home runs on a good team. That's where I got drawn to Yordan because I think he's gonna mash and he's gonna hit for a good average and Houston's still gonna be good.
Plus 4,500. You mentioned Byron Buxton.
Yeah,
plus 4,500.
I like that.
Giancarlo Stanton.
No. Friends don't let friends bet on Buxton playing this full season.
I didn't say Buxton. I was mentioning it as a comparison. The other person who's plus 4,500 is Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
When you can, you want to think of a person who, they would love to have an MVP because the person hit 60 home runs again. And there's few people on these lists that is, literally capable of doing so with the full health. And that's probably the worst odds. I'm happy. I would take Stanton to hit 50 more than I would take Stanton to play 150.
If Stanton hits 50 on the Yankees and the Yankees win the AL East, there's probably a really good chance he wins the AL MVP.
I like it. And anything further down, I can't see. I mean,
I saw one 50-1. Let me see. Eloy. I don't hate Eloy at 50-1. The White Sox are going to be so good.
But do you think that Luis Robert and it'd just be him, really? I mean, Makata's not going to do anything enough to stand in his way, but where they split votes potentially. But then again, the Yankees would have Aaron Judge, which Aaron Judge isn't on here.
Yeah, he's 15-1.
There he is. He's the number 4.
Yeah.
Okay. It says like where the fuck? What's his name?
Yeah. So last year I hit on Corbin Burns to win Cy Young at 40-1 in February, right before spring training started. So I got to try to find another one like that. So there's some Cy Youngs that I was looking at that I like too. But now I'm looking at NL MVP.
Aaron, do you know where we're at? We're on DK Nation. At least I'm on DK Nation.
Yeah, I'm just Nate, are is sports betting legal in Missouri yet or no?
No, it's legal in Illinois, which is 25 minutes away.
Okay. Yeah, so it's legal in Jersey, so I just pull up I can just pull it up on my phone and my laptop and stuff like that. I don't have to but yeah, it's DraftKings odds, so hopefully they post them online. You can see them even if it's not legal, but I'm looking at NL. Trey Turner's 15-1. Soto's plus 350. Soto was the guy last year I was betting on. So I had parlays with Soto at like 7-1 with Corbin Burns at 40-1.
Ooh. It
was like so there was one live bet I had in like mid-September. It was like a $5 bet to win like $3,500. But I also had just Corbin Burns to win Cy Young just straight. So what I did was I cashed out the parlay, the Soto Burns parlay, because the Nats were so bad, and I thought everybody said, "Oh, Bryce has it locked up, and if Bryce doesn't get it, Tatis is gonna get it." And the Phillies and the Padres both flamed out so hard in September, and they were like, "Well, Soto's has an OBP over 500. He's having a ridiculous year." And there was talk about him potentially winning it, and I was like, I cashed it out. I'm gonna throw up if that parlay hit. Thankfully it didn't. I made the right call, but I was very nervous going into that vote, the NL MVP vote, because Burns had won Cy Young before the MVP announcement too.
Oh shit! So yeah, that
yeah. So I was like, oh my god.
All right, so Aaron, are you looking at the NL MVPs?
Okay, so I've got the Cy Youngs. Unfortunately, living in South Carolina, it's tough to access the sports books.
Oh, I put it in the link over on the private chat.
Oh, okay. Let me go to that link. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. I mean, let's be honest. When we're talking about betting on these things, typically, the favorites, not the favorites, but the guys nearer to the top are the guys who win these things.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. These are odds makers. These aren't,
right,
random out of a hat names.
Right. But betting any amount of money on Willie Adames to win the National League MVP is just foolish. There's just no path to that. Can we agree with that, or? Sorry.
Did I get kicked out, or did I?
Something happened there.
Yeah,
I think just mentioning Willie Adames kicked me out.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I like that one. He was 4,500 to 1 or something like that. Oh, he's 50 to 1. I don't think that's bad. He played at an MVP pace. Here's one I don't hate. I just think they're gonna be so bad though. But Josh Bell 80 to 1 is not bad.
No, I like Josh Bell.
He's gonna hit behind Soto's gonna have a 600 OBP this year.
I know it's gonna be stupid.
I mean, just again, I guess we're looking at this a little differently. I want to win my bet, so give me Bryce Harper 10 to 1, right?
Okay,
right.
That's actually not bad. I don't mind that actually. The problem with these future bets is so much can happen over a 162 game season that if you're placing a bet at 3 to 1, there's not enough value in that to me to have my money tied up to only get a return of 3 to 1. So I'd rather place $5 on a 50 to 1 and hope that it hits versus put if you put $5 on Tatis at 35 30 plus 350, it's even if he wins MVP, it's unsatisfying. You get $17.
Last
year,
I kind of
I try to identify.
Last year, my only feature was the Houston Astros to win the American League. Right.
Okay.
And that was the only future that I circled, and I put 500 on it because the odds weren't that long. Right, they're only 8 to 1. So I think that's another way to attack it is if you're going, like you said, have a larger investment in the shorter odds. And then you end up with a new set of golf clubs. I did.
Yeah. That's probably the way to go. I should just be putting a huge bet on Mets 10 to 1. I've been doing that for the last couple of years.
No.
I
We're
need
not
to.
betting on the
I need
Mets.
to. I've been doing it. I've been doing it for like. I've been doing it like in 2020. I was doing this where I probably put like $200 on them at like 10-1, and I was just like, it needs to happen. It needs to happen, and I'm going to reap the benefits if it happens.
It's a reward for you. It's a reward for you regardless. Yeah, it's a reward for you regardless.
That is true. So that's kind of why I want to do Milwaukee, because I think Milwaukee is going to be really good, and at least they're 15-1, and it's like if the Mets don't win, you know, I'd like to see Milwaukee get it if the Mets can't win.
Okay, we are closing in on 3 hours, and I think we're going to go to saving the worst for last year. I think we had no more breaking news. I think we can all agree that anything that happens now will be probably nothing.
We'll savor it by ourselves.
We'll savor it by ourselves, and we'll all
group chat.
What was the worst moment you had leading up to the lockout over this last week? The actual agreement. Like, what was that moment when you either were just so excited that this was going to happen, and then something came, nothing came of it, or the opposite, where you were just like, I am so over this? Nate, did you have a moment?
The 2:45, 3 a.m. night, last Friday or whatever it was. So I had to work the next day, and I go into work, and it's one of those situations where, nonstop for 3 to 4 hours. And granted, woe was me. I stayed up too late, boo-hoo, because I watched, but just for nothing to get because you can't sleep because you got adrenaline going, you're watching it, and then you get excited, then it's like shut down. Then the maybe what if happens, then you shut down, try to slow down, then it hits you, and it's not good for your heart. And then you wake up, and 4 hours later and go to work on a Saturday, mind you, which was no fun. It sucked. So, all worth it now.
Worth every second.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, was the 28th was a Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure was.
That sucked.
That was rough for you? That was the moment that broke you?
No. So the 28th was a Monday. And that was the last, but that was bad. After that, I kind of, the one last night, the deadline last night, I'm very proud of myself. I passed out at 9 o'clock. I was asleep at 9 o'clock the last 2 nights. I think my body was just telling me that a deal was coming and I needed to get rest for it. Yeah, I'm glad. I just kind of woke up and I was like, all right, let me check Twitter and see if Pat tweeted anything. And it was both nights were go to bed. I was like, all right, I made the right decision. I'm glad I didn't. I think for me, I got a call from the Mets on yesterday. So yesterday afternoon, I got a call from the Mets, and I'm thinking it's my ticket rep telling me oh, hey, we got good news, inside news. They're about to announce that they're gonna agree to something.
You are an ever eternal Mets fan. If you think the Mets are calling you to give you the deal,
fucking idiot. And they were yeah, and they sent an email once they canceled the games that were you have opening day tickets, but opening day is now going to be a different day. It's not going to be March 31st. And they're any other games you can take a refund for, or you can let have a credit or whatever. Very easy to understand. But my ticket rep still called me. He's like, hey, I just wanted to check and see if you knew all the details. And I was like, yeah, I know. And that was pretty much it. So I was kind of hoping that he was gonna break some news for me, but didn't get anything there. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna see how. I think I told him, I'm gonna see how many more games get canceled before I take my credit out. And I was like, yeah, I'm taking a refund. I'm not gonna buy other games. So I'm gonna get my money out. But I'll keep the credit and just let them apply it to playoff tickets.
Right. Yeah. The eternal optimist.
The eternal optimist. The Mets fan. It doesn't matter what happens, mate.
I bought the package to go. I bought the package to go to playoff games and stuff because I don't want to have to do what I did in 2016 and kind of buy tickets on StubHub and kind of enter 8 million emails and lotteries, and I think I only bought one or two. I think I only bought StubHub tickets for like 1 or 2 games that whole postseason. Everything else I kind of managed to get face value, which is still ridiculously overpriced. But playoff series are the best to go to.
Absolutely, and we have baseball.
Aaron,
we got baseball. I know. Yeah, I've been to playoff games. I mean, it's been a while.
Yours, go ahead. What's the worst?
I think yesterday it was my first day as the editor and breaking news coverage writer for Metsmerize. Doing like a daily, like a 1 day a week is going to be my day on the Metsmerize blog. And, excited to be reading other people's writings about my favorite team and putting things together and making everything great. And I got up extra early and got all the articles ready to go. And the lead guys like we're gonna start this thread. And we're gonna keep track of everything that's going on today because word is things are inching towards the finish line. It's like, cool, man. This is gonna be great. It was long. It was a long, long day of following. If you spend a day with Bob Nightingale, I don't recommend it. You want to talk about things that are bad for your heart. It was hectic. And when there was no payoff at the end, it felt like I poured in so much work into trying to get the deal done myself from the other side of a blog. And I just kind of felt like, damn, I'm too emotional about what's happening right now. And so I stepped back today and separated myself from that and got like the best reward from it was, just enjoying what was happening today, sitting back, kicking back, watching it and being happy that we're going to get to baseball.
Aaron, were you like an OG Mets blog, like follower, reader, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was the original Mets blog. I'm gonna go way back to the Mets blog.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would have been like if they still had Mets blog for the last couple of days. Like that would have been such like a disaster.
It would have been an S show.
Yeah,
show for sure.
That I remember like I still get like nightmares about the confidence.
I still start to type in Mets blog. I still type Mets blog into my browser.
Sometimes I do.
It's like
I probably gave that website like 3 million views in 2006. Like, just
love it.
And like they had that confidence blog, and I just like have like I still have like anxiety about like the 2000 like the collapses where like every day this guy ran this confidence meter. He ran like it was like, how are you feeling about the direction of the Mets? And he ran this thing so he had that, and then he had a magic number counter with like Mr. Met on it. So when they were up, the magic number was like 6 with 17 games to play, and the number wasn't moving for like 2.5 weeks until like the last series of the game. The last series of the season, he finally took the stupid fucking magic number counter down.
That was brutal.
And I was just like, take it off. Like, this is bad luck. Everything is falling apart. Like, yeah. And like after every game, there would be like comment section that had like 800 comments in after like 10 minutes after the game, and they blew every game. So it was like Scott Schoenweiss, like to complete, like everything was just like. Everything was on fire. So I can't imagine what it would be like when the Mets finally have the richest owner in baseball, willing to spend money. And the reason why they can't get a deal done is because all the other owners are colluding against him to try to add a different threshold to the luxury tax so that he can't go over it. Like that is just exactly what happens to the Mets.
$60 million is going to be that number, and it's going to be like I think it says like it's a high percentage.
Yeah,
it's a high percentage, but he doesn't care.
So before the final minute strikes, 3 hours, we have news of a re-signing, if you will, to a minor league contract for the Kansas City Royals. Brandon Barker, right-handed pitcher, has re-signed to a minor league contract, courtesy of
Glad we got a chance to break that.
MILB Transactions. Congratulations, Brandon Barker. You are officially the only re-signing player in the 3-hour first ever live stream of Reliever Recon. Looks like I will have to go straight to his Fangraphs page while we see the last couple seconds tick down. And over under, you guys, real quick, Brandon Barker of his K per 9 or his K percentage over under 20%.
They re-signed him.
They re-signed him, yes.
He's in the major. His K percentage in the majors?
No, he's a minor leaguer.
So he's never played in the majors.
I have no idea who he is. I'm trying to find him on there.
Well, no, you're like you're saying like you don't know the answer. You're gonna have to look it up.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. I'm gonna say under.
20's low. 20's low.
Yeah,
and it was under 18.6
okay.
with a
that was a rousing.
Yeah, wow.
Signing.
So 2018 with Miami, their double A team, the 18.3 K percentage and the 18.3 walk percentage for a 0 K minus walk rate. Follow that up with a 2-year
really
hiatus.
did save the worst for last here, Nate.
This is the worst for last. Brandon Barker, congratulations. If he did anything well, he had a 6.17 FIP, which was down a full point from 2018. Thank you, Brandon Barker.
This is fantastic. All right. Seriously though, if you tuned in tonight to our YouTube live, thank you so much. If you've not head over to the Patreon yet, come on over to patreon.com/Reliever Recon. There's some free stuff out there for you. You know, if you want to check them out. You can find me on Twitter at Fantasy Triage, Nate at Nate Markham, Bullpen Guru at Bullpen Guru, Greg Jewett at Jewett with 2 T's 9. And Samsky NYC is Eric. But we Reliever Recon, and we appreciate our patrons for supporting us. And there's lots to come from us in 2022. So we hope that everyone will join us over there. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the night, and baseball's back.